And I'll really call it to order right now. It is 6 p.m. On June 24th. We'll begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by David Sauter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So who is Crystal, are you on or is Jaren on tonight?
I'm on, and she's our guest,
Okay, all right,
getting used to
sweet.
the drill.
All right. Miss Town Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember John Casey,
Happy to be here.
Councilmember Terrence Fennelly,
Equally happy.
Councilmember Adeline Rudolph. Present. Councilmember David Sauter,
Present.
Supervisor Jared Simpson.
I'm supposed to say with bells on, John?
Yes.
I am here.
If appropriate.
Was the meeting properly advertised?
Yes, it was.
All right, thank you very much. We do have communications, some are attached in the agenda, others are in the communications binder. As we begin tonight's meeting, we have a few presentations. We have several items of other business as well. We do have multiple opportunities for privilege of the floor. And we also have two public hearings. So just real quick before we go into the first privilege of the floor, I just want to explain. Privilege of the floor, please, if you choose to speak, please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address for the record. And it's not a back and forth dialogue. Sometimes we have new people coming in and it's a chance to be heard, but it's not opening up a dialogue with the board during that time. So we have our first privilege of the floor. Is there anyone who would like to be heard at this time? Okay, Mr. Burkholder.
David Burkholder, 4752 Westlake Road.
Before you start, this doesn't count in your time. Mr. Bork, yeah, that's not a filibuster. Don't worry. Don't worry. Mr. Burkholder did ask to present some information as part of this. This is what you're gonna share?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I did allow him a couple more minutes if necessary,
I appreciate it.
but capping off at 5 with that. Okay.
And the materials are present, are on the website if you need
Yep.
to. So as I start this, I want to just say that I think Jim does an excellent job, and every interaction that I've had with him has been excellent. So actually, can you go back to the first slide, please?
Maybe.
Try the bottom.
All right, so I wanted to this is what you're gonna see in this presentation, right? Today, we have one person that fills the responsibility for highway and water superintendents. This is absolutely consistent with what we see in all other Ontario County towns that don't have their own water and sewage treatment, right? The current highway water superintendent is receiving 2 full-time equivalent salaries. And I'll talk about that based on comparable data that is not consistent with what we see in all the other towns. Since 2020, the combined salaries for these 2 positions has increased by 31%. The proposals on the table today would increase that total salary to $180,000, which would be a 75% increase in 4.5 years. That is astounding, right? There's also an employment agreement related to the water supervisor position that guarantees a salary for 2024 and 25, has an annual increase of 3%, gives 6 months severance if he is terminated without cause, and you can't change those responsibilities unless he agrees to it. So what that means is Jim Fletcher is your water superintendent until he chooses not to, unless the town is going to pay him 6 months of salary. It's interesting that the proposed increase in that salary, $90K, exceeds what's enumerated in that contract, even for 2025, which is only $80K. Next slide, please. So what I hope we will agree to at the end of this is a reminder that the board has a fiduciary duty to the taxpayers to ensure that all town employees are compensated appropriately based on market data, right? You got to look at market data. I hope that we will not approve the proposed increases in the 2 resolutions And I think the board should actually consider a future resolution that would realign these two positions to be consistent with what's done in the other towns in Ontario County. Next slide, please. This is just a copy of the contract. We'll skip that because I covered those elements. Slide 4, this is historical salary data. So I have the water data, highway data, and combined between the two. So this is interesting. If you look across going to around 2022, things are relatively normal for the combined, but then we see this exponential increase, right? That is not normal for salaries. The other really interesting thing is, look at 2021. Highway salary dropped, water salary increased. Why would you do that? Salaries are linked to responsibilities, right? You define the responsibilities, you compensate appropriately for it. Why did this happen? I don't know. Next slide, please. So I asked the question, is the highway superintendent position full-time? Jared said, well, we don't really know. That is surprising to me. Every employee I've ever had, I knew exactly what their roles and responsibilities were and how much time it would take. But in the New York State Employees Retirement System, this is clearly the highway superintendent, because this was only for elected positions. It is clearly a full-time position. So how are we having a full-time person do this other duty? Next slide, please. Now we're going to get to comparables. So there's a table on the left that shows all the towns. These are towns that don't have a water treatment plant. They don't have a sewage treatment plant. They have a single person that fills these roles. I made a chart of these versus the population of the town. Maybe those things scale together. What you can see is average salary is way down here. This is where we are today in Canandaigua, and this is what we're proposing. Way out of whack with cops. Next slide, please. These are towns that have a water and or sewage treatment plant. They have two people, one person that does highway, one person that does water. Two people, each getting a salary.
Dave, you have 1 minute.
Okay, next slide, please. So here those same charts are again versus town population. You can see that here's the average salary from those. Our Canandaigua current for the highway is just below that average. It used to be above it before they dropped it. And then look at the water salary. We don't even have a water and sewage treatment plant, but we're above the average for these other towns. Next slide, please. So we can skip this one, just talking about how much those are going to be increased. So questions, why is this board and the town supervisor allowed an individual with a clearly defined full-time role to take on another role, right? That should not be allowed. Why are we proposing a resolution to increase salary when we should be talking about recombining these things and actually reducing salary to align it with the comps? Who's providing oversight, right? That's part of the role of this board, is to provide oversight to this. And then,
That's time.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, was there anybody else who would like to be heard at this time? All right, Ms. Cavalli.
Good evening.
If you could just give your name and address for the record.
My name is Amy Fletcher Scavelli. I reside at 3415 County Road 16 in Canandaigua. As a resident of the town of Canandaigua, I support the resolution for the highway and water superintendent pay increase. Jim has 15 years of experience at this job, and he has provided the signatures, been endorsed, and had his name on the ballot, has been voted into office several times. He serves at the pleasure of the voting community. In my many years living in Canandaigua, I have never questioned if my water would flow out of my faucet, if my roads would be plowed. If there is a seasonal storm washing out my driveway, which has happened, I know who to call for help. I like the security of knowing when I call the town, I will be heard and assisted by a professional who knows the job far better than anyone in the general public. So to me, Jim is worth every penny, as are all of the board members in front of me who receive compensation for their jobs. This is hard work, time consuming, I'm sure, but meaningful. And I'm grateful that there are still members of the public that want to run for office and serve the greater good. This pay increase seems reasonable, especially if you look at Jim's many years of service and the fact that it's two positions. As with any other job, raises are necessary to teach hardworking, knowledgeable people on staff. People are not banging on the door to get on the ballot and make a challenge, because frankly, who would want to do this job at the current pay with the constant, very public criticism? Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? at this time.
Ask a quick question. What is the time frame during the public hearing for speaking?
During the public hearing, it's the same. We have the ability to extend that. It's 3 minutes, but there is some flexibility there. I'd like to keep it depending on the number, still to that 3 minute timeframe. Mr. Borkholder did present the presentation beforehand, so that's why I gave him a little extra leeway with that. Okay. All right. Anybody else at this time like to be heard? Okay. I'm just gonna see, we did, by the miracles of modern technology, we do suddenly have the birthdays that we can share, which is always exciting. So birthdays for this cycle, we have Michael Murphy, Tammy Brace, Mark Stryker, Dave Emery, our historian, Lee Ferguson, Michael Boyce, and Cody K. College.
Yeah, I had a hard time.
You're still working on, okay, good. That's why I don't feel so, I was hoping it was Kolodziejski because I know a gazillion of them, but okay.
And me.
Hmm?
And me.
What? And Adeline Rudolph on the fourth, well, you're not, this goes up to June 24th.
Oh.
This goes up through right now, so you're not, you gotta.
That's very exciting.
We'll talk more about that later. All right, we do have some presentations at this time. Right now, I'd like to invite Karen DeMay to give a report from the cemetery committee. And even though it sounds like it's not the most glamorous, they've been doing a ton and trying to save us in multiple ways. So go ahead, Karen.
I'm Karen DeMay. I live on Middle Cheshire Road. Good evening. First, thank you for allowing me to report to this board early in the agenda. I have another commitment in Farmington at the same time. This is a brief and thorough update of the activities of your cemetery committee. The committee has 5 appointed members, Judy and Dave York, Doug Stone, Dennis Brewer, and myself. We also have very dedicated individuals who attend meetings and provide valuable input. We benefit from the guidance of our town historian and the history team. In just 2 short years, we have met regularly to tend to the care and attention of the town cemeteries. An information kiosk will be installed at Academy Cemetery. The tree team is working to name trees at Hunt and Academy Cemetery as heritage trees along with Amanda. We again this year approved hiring Mr. Peter Ellison to do restoration work on headstones and monuments. A separate committee chaired by Donna West is working diligently to participate again in the National Wreaths Across America Day, December 14, 2024. This committee is working to clarify and update town code as it pertains to town cemeteries and burials. We expect to present these recommended changes for review and approval by this town board in the near future. The committee is moving toward discussions with the property owner of the landlocked Wolverton Red Dock Cemetery. What are our options and what can the town and this dedicated group of volunteers do to best meet the needs of all involved? We had 1 workday so far this year at Sand Hill Cemetery. Please recognize volunteers who take time to beat back nature. This sometimes includes poison ivy, buckthorn, and the invasive Ailanthus, commonly known as the tree of heaven. I would also like to thank our Parks Department for always doing a great job of regular care and mowing of our cemeteries. Thank you to Andy Carino. Thank you again for this opportunity to share our passion for preserving our cemeteries. If anyone has a question or comment.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks. They are looking better than ever.
Yeah, they
It's
really-
clear the impact the community's has.
So again, we're working hard for the next Wreaths Across America. And we'll update you on that soon. You can't avoid us.
Yeah. And with that, and I would also say, so people know, we also have flags in conjunction. Sometimes it's hard to know where the history team ends and the cemetery committee begins because they're all so entwined. And don't let the name fool you. Cemetery Committee, it's a lively bunch. And they've got a lot of great ideas and a lot of great things that they're doing. And again, just trying to preserve, because once those are gone, they're gone forever. And once we lose that record, it's not coming back. And if we do have mistakes, they're very expensive to find and figure out. So it's so important that they do what they do to help
Thank
us
you.
out with that.
Karen, can you just say who from your committee is here?
Who from our committee is here? Dennis Brewer. Donna and Rich West are not members, but they might as well be. I don't think anyone else is.
And Leaf.
Oh, Leaf is our guiding light.
Good choice on Peter Ellison, by the way. He's an excellent.
Thank
great
you.
student.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen.
We'll see you next.
All right, enjoy your event. Enjoy your meeting. So Parks and Rec has let me know they do not have a report at this time, and we didn't have it in time to get it off of the agenda for presentations. So they will not be presenting, but I'm sure you've noticed that we have some fancily dressed people here tonight. I'd like to introduce Chief Chris Brown for the Cheshire Fire Department Annual Report.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again. Year after year, I look forward to this presentation, just so everybody can kind of see what we're doing and what we did the previous year. Next slide. So we'll do an introduction, the challenges and accomplishments, community considerations. I'll introduce our leadership team. We'll go over the call volume response summary, our present and future positioning, some department highlights, and then closing comments. Next slide. So last year we responded to 625 calls for service. We're continue to be the busiest volunteer department in Ontario County, and 2023 was our busiest year. Again, the public demands for service remain high, while competition for funding not only continue, like other municipalities and individual taxpayers, volunteer organizations were stretched to meet short-term financial obligations and plans for capital expenditures. The CVFD team continued to innovate and find ways to be more efficient and effective. Some of the challenges, again, like I mentioned this last year, the NFPA mandates continue to drive scheduled apparatus equipment replacement at much higher costs. And there's actually a new thing coming down the line that involves OSHA, which a lot of things will actually start to become law for volunteer organizations. So it's kind of eye-opening for a lot of volunteer organizations. There's more to come on that. Continue to increase in costs associated with equipment such as gear, supplies, and repairs. And our fleet management team continues to evaluate the plan on a monthly basis. As you can imagine, the prices just skyrocket. They just keep going up and they're not going down anytime soon. So it's a plan that we put together last year, and we continue to just kind of review that on a monthly basis to make sure that our plan still fits what our needs are. Next slide. We continue to benefit from the excellent leadership teams. That's the operational leadership and the company business management leadership. Our volunteer membership continues to grow. Our community engagement continues to grow within or with events such as the safety training program, which I have some pictures later on. We'll look at some of those. And these are just some of the things that we do with the community. So we do a lot of the fire training with Hammocks, Bell Summit, Cheshire Glen, Fergus Hills, Paul Horizons. And then these other things there at the bottom are some of the other community events that we are taking. Next slide. So constantly changing community requires the ongoing application of risk management principles. So changes in demographics, types of construction, more vehicle traffic volume, marine activity. Speaking of traffic volume, so the light up here at Hickox and 32, since that light has gone in, we have not had any crashes there, which is very nice. So now we just have to tackle Hickox and 32. So Hickox and 5 and 20 is where the light went in. Now we have to tackle Hickox and 32, which I do believe
Roundabout in a few years.
going
So,
on.
but that's still a couple, that's still future.
Yes, that would be very nice.
Yes.
So our high hazard occupancies, which are nursing homes, assisted living, medium hazard occupancies, which are your apartments and townhouses. And your low hazard occupancies, which are your 1 family, 2 family, 3 family. Risk management drives apparatus, fleet configuration, types of tools, equipment, and their location, whether they're gonna be at station 1 or station 2. Next slide. In recognition of the increased volume of marine activity, occupancies and structures close to lakes, CVFD has developed specifications for a fire rescue boat, specifically designed for both water rescue and fire suppression. We'll go over a little bit of that later on as well. The fire rescue boat's currently being built by Lake of Salt in Wisconsin. We also have a new engine 411 replacement to replace our 2008 engine. This engine's smaller, which will allow us to cut down many of the limited access to lake roads. Next slide. Our roster, we still have 40 on our roster, 40 firefighters. We've got 30 trained firefighter 1 level, firefighter 2 level, 20. And that includes first responders, EMTs, special ops, cold water rescue techs, surface water techs, hazmat members, rope rescue technicians. So the county rope team, a lot of our members are on that county rope team. So we go to Naples quite a bit. I think we've been there several times this year already. And they train once a month as well with the county rope team. New additions in 2023, we had 1 new EMT, 1 experienced firefighter, and then firefighters that are training right now, 1. So if you can remember, probably not, but over the last couple of years, that number has gone down. So we're not getting as many volunteers as we used to. I can remember times where we had 5+ members to vote on each month, and we're just not getting those numbers anymore. So introduction to our ops team. I'm the fire chief. Our deputy chief is John Springer, assistant chief Matt LaFave, assistant chief Chris Milne, Captain Brandon Emmel, Captain Brisden Johnson, Captain Justin Reeder, Fire Police Captain Ruth Outhouse. Our lieutenants are Jareth Graves, KJ Miller, and Rick Roxon is actually doing a dual role this year. He wanted to get his feet wet in the operations side of things, so we started him in the lieutenant's position this year. And then Crystal Martin is our fire police lieutenant. This is a breakdown of our call volume for the year. I don't think I need to go through every single one, but if anybody has any questions about something, feel free to let me know. The severe weather, a lot of that was the July 7th. So we actually did more than 20. That's not all the weather. We did 48 calls for July 7th that weather, that day we had the bad weather. It just depends on what you put the, so like service call, a lot of those weather calls went into service. There were a couple of hazardous conditions that went into, or a couple of those calls for hazardous conditions, which could be power lines down, so on and so forth. Here's another breakdown of kind of what each of those calls are. Next slide. So we have a great faith and confidence in CVFD's organizational leadership teams, the company and line officers to effectively manage the organization and continue to embrace and employ the strategic plan and 10-year master plan. So our financial resources closely managed, income versus expense, accruals and other resources for capital expenditures, managing existing debt. So we're always reviewing the payoff schedules. We're always looking at the fleet, like I mentioned earlier, always checking to see what more we can do with equipment. And then our facilities, looking at potential capital expenditures. We continue to fundraise our annual chicken barbecue. We just did a boot drive this past weekend here, which was a pretty decent boot drive. So we appreciate the town board allowing us to do that. And then our annual fund drive letter. Now we'll go over, and I don't know why these pictures went sideways, so you'll have to just kind of tilt your head a little bit if you really want to see it. It was not like that when I sent it to Sue though, so I'm not sure, maybe Sue did something, I don't know.
Sue had the whole thing upside down.
I bet.
She fixed it really fast.
So we try our hardest, we do our best to get out there in the community. You know, the community relies on us and it's nice to see the community not just at their house when there is an emergency. It's funny, I just sent Rick a message yesterday of a department not in this state that was complaining that they didn't have the community support. And I said to Rick, I said, thank God we do, you know, and I don't know what we would do if we didn't have community support. So it's very nice that we're able to do these things and get everybody out. The kids love it. Actually, we have a guy that stops over to our annual Recruit New York program every year, and he stays there for about 2-3 hours with his kid and just lets his kid, you know, climb around the truck. So that's nice. Next slide. Couple new additions to the fleet in 2023. We got we got 2 new rescue trucks, which is a picture on the left there. They're not outfitted yet. There's a lot of back ordered pieces that need to go onto those trucks. There's going to be one at Station 1 and one here across the road at Station 2, which will allow us to run better EMS, more efficient. The truck we had was just too large, and we figured let's buy 2 of these. We sold our other rescues, so that sale kind of made up for the purchase of these 2 vehicles, which was nice. Actually, we'll go back to that one real quick. 2 new chief's vehicles. There's one for me and one for the deputy chief. That's what we have currently assigned. These vehicles, not sure if you've ever seen the back of one of these vehicles. I should have put a picture on for the back. It's a huge, basically an office in the back of that vehicle. So it allows the commanding officer, when I don't have it, if I'm out of town, one of the other chiefs or line officers has the vehicle. Essentially allows us to work effectively, efficiently, making sure that everybody's where they're supposed to be. So you're not basically standing out front of a incident trying to remember where everything is with a radio in your hand. This allows us to write things down, keep accountability, so on and so forth. A lot of compartments in there that has a lot of our resources pre-planned, so on and so forth. Next slide. Fire safety training. Like I said, we do these annually, sometimes a couple times a year. We're actually getting ready to go to Oil Summit and Bristol Harbor. I know Bristol Harbor is not in the town, Canada, but they reach out to us as well. Next slide. That's okay. I'll forgive you. Some pictures of training. We were fortunate to have the Y host us for some water rescue training this past winter, which was very nice to have a warm pool to do that in. It's not always warm in the lake, but that's okay. Next slide. Emergency responses, just a couple crashes, a couple fires, a couple incidents that we've been on. The bottom right picture is a resident that we saved. She was involved in a vehicle accident, dual in 21. When we arrived, she was unconscious, not breathing. Our members did CPR on her, applied the AED, and brought her life back. So 2 firefighters were recognized county level with that. Firefighter Bob Finger, who I'm sure most of you know, and then Brisden Johnson, who was one of our captains. So I just wanted to put that picture in there just so you guys can see that. And then the fireboat, this is basically what our fireboat will look like. The lettering and the color might be a little different. So next page. This is a lake assault boat. It's 26 feet. The beam is 9 feet 6 inches. Draft should not exceed 18 inches with motors trimmed up and 32 inches with motors trimmed down. This fire pump can operate in as little as 14 inches of water. It's got a 4,000 pound capacity. With the trailer and the boat, it's 9,900 pounds. It's 45, goes 45 miles per hour, which we're not really looking at speed on the water. It's not about the speed. Obviously, we want to make sure we can get out there, but we're not going out there to cruise around that and have a good time. So, we pump 1,250 gallons per minute, while maintaining 150 psi at the pump. Next slide. Thank you. These are a couple, or this picture here was actually on the lake there. I think that was one of our fires. It might have been one of Canandaigua's. I know we did one a few years ago. It looks very similar to that. And then the picture on the bottom there is essentially what our marine unit will look like. A few more specs there. I can actually leave this with you guys if you want to read through it. But I just wanted to kind of give you the basics of the boat. This boat is actually delayed a little bit. We are supposed to be here next month. And they ordered a couple parts that were not correct, so they had to push it back. And then that part was on back ordered. So we expect the boat here in September. We'll have a little bit of time to do some training on it before we have to put it away for the winter, but next summer we'll definitely be out there on the water to start responding to emergencies. And with that, basically, that sums it up. I just wanted to come in and present my 2023 report. And let everybody know that, you know, this department is doing some really good things. We're not sitting back and just letting things kind of wreck. You know, we're very active with trying to find new and innovative ways of doing things. Continually training, and we're here for the community. So, any questions for me, comments?
First, I thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate everything you guys do in our community, and having called on Cheshire myself once or twice. First question was, how tall of a building can you put out a fire in with your current equipment? I mean, we often change codes and particularly more in the region covered by the city, but I'm just wondering how tall a building you would feel comfortable with having for fire purposes.
And
4
we can-
stories.
We can go as high as we want, really. I mean, we have high-rise packs, which is essentially a big pack you put on your shoulder to climb up floors.
Okay.
Most of those buildings will have, easy way to say it is basically they'll have connections inside each floor where you can hook your hose up to.
Okay,
And so, I mean, you can go as high as you want. I mean, look at the, like New York City, for example.
Yeah.
You know, so height is not an issue.
okay, wanted to make sure on that. And the second one is, did you get any funding from any other municipalities? I know you just did a nice job at Bristol Harbor and.
We do get funding from Bristol Harbor, yes, because we do
Okay.
cover a portion of the town of Bristol Harbor. So
Okay,
from the Canandaigua town line to just before just before Bapple Hill, Seneca Point,
Okay.
Bristol Harbor, the condominiums there. That's really the only section that we cover down Seneca Point, and
Okay.
that little where the resort used to be,
yep,
and the housing units behind it.
okay, thank you.
And we did apply for grants as well, still waiting on the AFG grant. So
Okay, good.
I do have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, John. Of your total funding, how much comes from private donations
about $30,000, about $30,000.
a year?
Yeah.
Thank you. And how much time does the average volunteer fire person? How much of the time do they donate on a weekly basis, let's say?
Firefighter or land officer or admin person.
He
wants the answer.
Yeah.
I'm doing about 35 to 40 hours a week.
Volunteer.
Yes. Rick, I don't know how many.
I'd say 25 to 30 a week,
Fire-
outside of any lengthy extensive calls.
Wow.
firefighters are probably doing 15, 20. We'll say 10 to 15 between calls and training every week.
Pretty significant amount of time. So I just want to say thank you. And what motivates someone to do this?
I don't know. I mean, we were out with Jim, I mean, we had, how long, we were out just, was there Wednesday? Was that Wednesday?
4 hours.
4 hours, from 11 o'clock at night to 1, 2, 3. So my time has been a little bit more limited because I have little ones that we're bringing up. My wife works nights, so there are 3 nights out of the week that I can't respond to night calls, but other than that, I mean, I'm over across the road every single day after work and till dinner, sometimes we go back. But yeah, the firefighters, you know, they're here for any of the time as well.
That's very incredible. Just thank you for your service. Well, people like you, obviously, might not be here today, so thank you very much.
Chief, you also review development proposals, right?
Yes.
You have comments to the planning board? Just, it's not your presentation, but others should know that all the comments from Cheshire chief as well as the city chief, but it's in that.
In some of the jurisdiction. Eric, do you have any questions?
Just thank you for all you do. You guys have helped my family on a number of occasions. It's always great service and always very professional, but very personal. We really appreciate the work you guys do.
Absolutely.
Thanks for protecting us and for donating all that time.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Absolutely.
Can the public ask a question?
Sure.
You've got the boat, how often would that be used for boat fires or house fires from the water?
Both.
And both, and how often do we have things that are occurring on the lake?
I have another presentation, that has all that information in there. And we could, there are some years where we do 3, there are some years where we do 20. The good thing about this boat is we'll be able to be out there on the lake. The sheriff's office has a boat, City of Canandaigua Fire Department has a boat as well. They go out, they do booby shifts, I guess you can say, so more things will be pushed to us that we can handle on the water. So the resource, having that resource will help with the sheriff's department as well as the city of Canandaigua. So the more boats that are out there, emergency boats, the more, I don't want to call them instances, but more service we can provide to those out there. Because a lot of the times, people will drive into land. You know, they'll drive their boat into land and get emergency services on the land. We're just hope there, we can help them way out on the land.
Because some of the houses aren't accessible for fire trucks to get
Yeah,
down.
so this has a fire, yeah, and this has, you know, fire pump right on it, so I mean, you can sit there, it's an unlimited water service.
Not unlimited.
We had this going
Back
back on Adams Drive a couple years ago, that boat would have been perfect for that, because that fire was really on that side of the lake anyways, so we could have sat a boat there. And
And
just,
where are you gonna be docked? That's my last-
I think we're going to be possibly at Ononda.
You will be out in Onda. We were hoping in July, but
Yeah.
you guys decided not to.
Yeah, I didn't decide. I went.
So as of right now, there will be an agreement for them to dock at Ananda.
Good.
We have agreement on the board. It's a benefit. Until, I mean, your ultimate goal is to move more to
Yeah.
the center of the lake, move up a little bit.
Operationally, it would be best if we were like at German Brothers. We were still working with that owner to get up there. But we just didn't have the space for it this year, so. And I just want to let everybody know, this boat is not something that we, you know, said, hey, let's buy a boat tomorrow. You know, this has been discussed since Mike Miller was the chief, for those of you that know Mike Miller. And we finally, we're in a position after years and years and years to say, let's do it. And again, going back to one of my first couple of slides, things are not getting cheaper. And, you know, we got multiple prices over the past couple of years and the price just keeps going up and up and up. So we said we need to get this now or we're not going to afford it. So we also got a grant that we're finalizing as well, that Pam Helming secured for us. So that will help with the costs a little bit as well. And once the boat's here, we'll, you know, I know Jared's interested, but if the rest of the town board wants to go as well, we're gonna do a little press, you know, release and whatnot, so.
No water ski.
Hmm?
No water ski.
No, with Dramamine. I need my Dramamine. Before I go even look at it, I have to have some Dramamine. I was walking Ananda last week with representatives from the DEC, from the region. And we were looking at where the sheriff's boat is, and we're talking about the Cheshire boat going there. And they were very grateful to have one, because there's not enough coverage, boat coverage on the lake in the peak months in the summertime. And they had referenced, you know, several boats that had been complete losses, out on the lake. within the last few years. So they were grateful, very pleased to hear that we were going to have that partnership and that relationship there for now, and it's however long it needs to be. One question that I did have, and I brought this up a few years ago when I was first elected to the board, and it was kind of told that, not by you guys, but no, we don't need that, that's not really beneficial. Before it even got to you, the emergency responders, tax credits, property tax credits. Is that something that would be beneficial to the fire department and the members of the fire department as a whole? Do you think that there would be enough that would benefit from that? Because it's like a one or the other. You can choose different ways to get credit for the time and the resources, and frankly, you know, the thousands of dollars of wear and tear and everything else that you put into it. Would that be beneficial to look into for the town, to see if to provide that to the volunteers?
I think it would be. I think it would be a recruiting tool as well. But yes, I believe it would be.
How is recruiting going? Are you staffed the way you want to be? or-
It's, no, I mean, it's down. I mean, that's nationwide in the volunteer fire service. People just aren't, they're not applying, you know, so, you know, the efforts that the state are putting out there to do the Recruit New York. We have over the last couple of years gotten a few people to apply during that event, but it's not nearly as many as we used to. Like I said before, I mean, we were getting 5, you know, at least one every single month, up to 5, and we're not getting that anymore. So,
The other side of that is you're not losing. membership.
no, we're not losing, and that's another good thing
Good.
as well. You know, we did lose a couple down, they moved out of state, but not just that they joined and aren't interested anymore. Once they're in there, they typically stay around, so.
You get any assistance from the Middle Cheshire Road Fire Department?
No.
Not Cheshire Road.
4 ladder trucks out there now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's-
I went out to the
yeah,
park.
That's pretty cool.
Backup trucks.
That's pretty cool. So with that, Dave, do you think that's something the ordinance committee would look into?
In terms of.
This term attack assessment? I know that you have
a local law.
A local law.
Town code to allow for the.
And I don't-
firefighter exemption.
or something that could be prepared and brought, not as,
Put that on the docket,
not
sure.
debated, but something that could be prepared. Enough other municipalities have it, that would probably be we could get something that wouldn't have to be labored for a long time, that wouldn't be already done by some other municipalities that have it.
I do believe the city of Canandaigua has it.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. With that, you clapped him out, clapped him out of here. All
There
right,
you go.
it is Monday.
Thank you.
Thank
You bet.
you.
Thanks, guys. So we do not have any continued public hearings on the agenda, but we do have some new public hearings. The first public hearing is a public hearing on the proposed cable television franchise agreement of Spectrum Northeast LLC, and this pertains to resolution number 2024-177. And at this time, I declare the public hearing open, and I invite everyone who would like to be heard to approach the board at this time. Is there anyone online who would like to be heard at this time? Is there anyone else? Miss, please. And if you could state your name again, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Christine Ross. I live at 73 Bristol Street.
Say the name again, please.
Christine Ross.
Thank you.
And learned about this hearing from Finger Lakes Times. And I know that there was a franchise in the city of Canandaigua. I didn't know that there was for the town. Those are 2 different things. Yes. But I thought I would share with you some of my experience with the city of Canandaigua, not because I think that perhaps you're not going to get a good deal from Spectrum, but to maybe invite you to dialogue with them a little bit more, to get more for the people who are actually helping them make a profit. And that's all of us. In the city of Canandaigua, I had a security complaint with Spectrum Charter and had such good evidence that when I called them, to report my security complaint. And what it was essentially is that somebody had put whole blocks of IP addresses assigned to my router. Whole blocks. And although I was paying a very basic rate to get Spectrum Charter's television and internet, I was getting 1,000 megabytes per second up and down, which means that somebody, not me, was getting those services. When I called them and reported this to them, after I reported it to the abuse line, because it seemed pretty clear to me that there was something going on there, and I'm not sophisticated enough in technology to really know what that was. But I sent them an email through the abuse line and gave them all the data that I had and clips from my computer and sent it to them. I called them a week later to follow up because I was rather concerned that there was a serious security issue here. The only thing they said to me was get a subpoena. Get a subpoena if I wanted information about my complaint. So I tried to follow up with them. I called them several times. Every time, this unfolded over 2 years, I tried again to contact them. Every time I contacted them, I got a number to call. We'll escalate it. I got a number to call. I would call that number and it would ring. That's it. It would ring. This went on for 2 years. You're in a position, and I never got a resolution. I finally changed my service. I left. I never got a resolution, but you're in a position as a body that is going to engage in a franchise agreement with them to do something for the customers who really do need people to take their voice. When I was just this little person, they could do exactly what they did, and that was ignore me. That's what they did. So you're in a position to intervene on behalf of people. And we just heard this wonderful story about this man who's giving so much of his time for the betterment of the community. And it's happening all over the United States. And I'm a teacher. I've problems with student engagement as well. And I think it's in part because people feel that when they make the phone call with a legitimate concern like I had, they get ignored. It's about people not being responded to, feeling like it doesn't matter. I was concerned about the security of my neighbors and this community. And Spectrum Charter did nothing. So I would just invite you to imagine that as part of your deliberation with them, that you can, because you're more than one of us, you represent all of us, have something to say about it. And it seems to me a simple procedure of how do I know, who should I talk to, who will get back to me? Something to help citizens feel like there's someone on their side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard at this time?
David Borkholder, 4752 West Lake Road. I haven't read the franchise agreement. I don't know what's in it. I just looked at the resolution. With how fast technology advances, 15 years per term is an eternity. And I think it's really hard to know that Spectrum is going to be the best provider for this community, even 5 years from now, right? So I would just encourage the board to think about that term and think about shortening that term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to be heard on this matter? Any board members like to be heard? No. Without objection, I will declare this public hearing closed. All right, that moves us to our next public hearing, a public hearing on a local law to authorize a budget amendment and increase the salary for the highway superintendent. And at this time, I declare the public hearing open. This refers to resolution 2024-180. And I would like to invite all who would like to be heard at this time to come forward in front of this board. Mary?
Can I, before my time starts, can I pass some things out?
Yes.
While she's doing that, may I recommend that you, by direction, include the comments made during privilege of the floor And presentation in the public record for this public hearing.
Yes.
First one,
So direct.
would you check and see if you could open that? I sent it to Chris Lynn for. One.
Get this one at our council.
I sent her an email copy.
Really eating into your 3 minutes, Mary.
No, he said it wasn't.
Time.
Marion,
Oh,
I can't open what you sent me on OneDrive, but Jared sent the document that I can open. Is that what you sent?
I don't know what.
I
is your
sent this one.
comments?
Okay, so he did.
I sent the comments, not the chart. I didn't get this, but I sent this.
Why don't I give you mine?
Cause there's some questions on there for you, kiddo.
After this.
I would also, whoops. Because Dave got cut short a little bit. On his last page of his presentation, there's a question, and this is kind of a question for you. Was there a resolution approved by the board to create the new salaried position for the water supervisor? I don't think there ever was.
I don't.
Okay, so you created a position or didn't you? I don't think you did. First, a lot of people have been asking, how did this occur mid-year? What happened that brought this up? And I think we need to be honest with the public. Let's be honest with the town residents who have asked why this is coming up now, midterm, mid-year. It was initiated because Jim Fletcher supposedly received an offer from out of state, which nobody had the guts or smarts to ask to see. But we found out in the last week or two that it was only a verbal offer, which they felt they had to match. It was only in the last week or so that this was discovered, and this offer was only verbal and not in writing. These two positions are these two positions two separate full-time positions? If you as a town board can't even answer that simple question, you have no right to allow increases to salaries since you don't even know what the services and hours you're paying for are. Where is the income study research? The resolution says that according to research that you did. So I want to know, where is the income study research that is referenced in tonight's resolutions? And I wrote what they were. The increasing each of the two salaries because they are below standards, industry standards. Let's see them because I don't think they exist. Why is the town board considering giving the water superintendent position? Giving the water superintendent position, if it is a separate position, a mid-year increase when a $20,000 increase was just given and it was approved last August and didn't start until January 1st of this year. That's not even 6 months old, that $20,000 increase. Regarding the contract signed last August, it was buried, so it was difficult for people to see. I had a hell of a time finding it. It was buried on page 409 of 506 pages in the agenda for that month. I was told that the decision to increase the water superintendent's compensation last August happened because the increase could not be added to the midterm to the elected position of highway superintendent. However, the contract that was written clearly states that the increase to the water superintendent's compensation was not to start until January 1st, 2024. Did the increase start before that? If not, why didn't you just wait until budget time and then make the addition to the highway superintendent's salary as was appropriate? And then the increase would still have been effective January 1st. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense now midterm. Dave, Burkholder's well done and professional presentation clearly shows that we are overpaying, not underpaying for highway and water superintendent compared to all other towns in Ontario County that do not have and manage their own water and sewage processing plants. Any compensation increases in either position would be irresponsible and contrary to your fiduciary duty of town board members. And I would like to see a copy of the resolution that created this new independent position. The other thing is a comparison that I did. You can read it for yourselves. It's not something that is conducive to reading, but it's a
Aaron, you have 1 minute.
it's a comparison. And it clearly shows that compared to the other towns that do not have water processing plants and sewage processing plants, we are way overpaying. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard at this time? All right.
Hello, this is Pat Brewer.
All right, Pat, I will go ahead and start your time right now.
Okay, thank you, Jared. Hi, everyone. I just want to build on Mr. Burkholder's presentation. No one is saying that Mr. Fletcher is not doing a good job. I think he's doing an exceptional job, and I think most people would say the same thing. I have 30 plus years of experience in HR, and the issue is simply taxpayers should not be paying the equivalent of 2 full-time positions for an incumbent who will not be working 80 plus hours every day, 5 days a week. The best practice in HR is to take the average salary of the 2 separate positions or pay the highest of those 2 positions. That is common practice in any corporation for a situation like this, and I have been involved in many. So you don't want to add the 2 salaries together. You either take the average or the highest of one. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's fine. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard at this time? Give a moment for anybody else online. See if there are any other hands. Anybody else in person like to be heard? Any board members?
I just want to know, I'm gonna ask that we move this earlier on, this resolution earlier on, so it's not the last resolution of the night.
Yeah.
So stick around and there should.
Yeah, we can move it to the beginning. We can move it to the beginning so there's more action. What Mr. Rodolfo was talking about is sometimes we'll have public hearings and then we'll have action at the end of the meeting. And if people are here for the public hearing or to present or anything else, they might leave. And then they don't know what the resolution was. So we need to adjust that so we can talk about some of that resolution. So any other comments? Any other questions from board members at this time?
Sure, I just like, this is a comment as town historian for everybody, and I do have a personal feeling about this, but what I'm gonna say, as town historian. So when we're considering the salaries for highway superintendents, consider that when you talk about candidate, you're talking about double township. There's only a couple of them in Ontario County, but where the actual footprint of the town is twice as large as it is another town. Okay, so, and then also, I'm gonna admit complete ignorance about the number of miles in the highway system of the town of Canandaigua. By say Bloomfield, I believe Phelps is also a double. So keep that in mind as you're considering things, that scope should also be a piece of your consideration. And that's just my note as town historian.
All right, thank you, sir.
David? Thanks.
Yes, for the public hearing, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a comment. It may be that we have a lot more highway miles, and so when you look at comps, the highway salary should be higher. again, I would question, why did we cut the highway salary by $25,000, right? You compensate for the work and responsibilities, right? This isn't, I'm gonna juggle things around and like try to get the salary where I want to, and I can slosh stuff in any bucket that I want to, right? Pay a fair salary. That's all we're asking. Pay a fair salary, look at the comps, take into account all of the information, right? If we have lots more roads, if we have lots more miles of water line, take that into account, but do it in a systematic way that's based on the comps. Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Fletcher, 2155 Federal 28, Canandaigua, New York. You're a longtime highway and water superintendent. Speaking on behalf of just the numbers, I don't necessarily agree with what's being said, but I will tell the board that if things go separate, the highway superintendent patrols the equipment and the employees. Currently, we share employees. We share equipment. We have one person coordinating all the work for the town. I oversee storm, lighting, special water, street lighting, parks, highway, water. Many of those duties I don't get compensated for the work that I do. And as highway law goes, the town board should compensate the highway superintendent for those duties. I don't ask for additional compensation for the longest time. I happen to get an opportunity to better myself for this community, from our community. And instead it turns into a, Jim, you're great, but you're just not worth it. It's pretty much how I feel today with this community. Not everybody feels that way, but that's how it is. So if the board chooses to do a separate direction with separate positions, it will cost you more money. You will pay more benefits, you will buy more equipment, you will hire more staff. Versus what I do today of doing the job everybody says I do a good job of. Is what I'm saying. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Jim. All right. Anybody else like to be heard at this time?
Greg Botelling, 24 Etherington Crescent, Churchville, New York. All right, so as a town engineer or as a consulting engineer, I work with many municipalities in this county, Monroe County, Livingston County, Wayne County. So you know, obviously it's the boards and the community's decision as to what to do with the compensation package for your highway water superintendent. I'm not gonna really get into that. But what I do want to make sure is well known is that Jim, as in his capacity as highway and water superintendent, has saved this town a fortune. It's really hard for me to put a number on it, but I would guess over his tenure, it's probably approaching $1 million. By all the projects he's put in and taken on that most other communities immediately turn and they bid it out. So when you bid it out as a public works project, you're paying for prevailing wage. There's obviously added costs for wraparound soft costs as it relates to on these projects because you're using an independent contractor versus you're using your town staff. I just want you guys to at least consider that when you think about what the compensation package that you're looking at for those two positions and what you're getting with Jim. I think it's just hard to really quantify, but I do know like the highway garage, I know we saved a lot of money on the highway garage. We saved a bunch of money on the Canandaigua Consolidated Capital Improvement Project. These are all projects that most municipalities, I can't even think of, maybe not even Farmington would probably take on both of those projects like Jim is taking on both those projects. I know they did help out with the highway garage, but they don't have the capacity to take on like these big water jobs like Jim, and that has to do with his knowledge and his expertise. So I guess my point is just there is a value for that knowledge and expertise. Jim is also looked at by all the other county highway superintendents as the resource. When there's a problem, they don't know what to do. That's who they call first, that guy. You guys are pretty lucky to have a guy like Jim working for you. So, but like I said, it's the board's decision, the community's decision, what you do ultimately, but I just want to make sure that you guys understand there's value beyond probably what you're considering to what Jim brings to this position. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard at this time? I'll ask once more, give one more call. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard at this time, either online or in person?
Can you talk a second time?
Who's that hand up?
There is, that's not. Who? Does
Chuck
Chuck have a hand up? No,
Hello?
he doesn't.
Hello, can you hear me?
Who's speaking, please?
Yeah, who's speaking?
This is Ted Brewer at 4727 County Road 16.
Okay, go ahead, Ted.
I have a quick question for the board. I'm not an attorney, but I've heard some concern expressed regarding the town's fiduciary responsibility. I'm wondering if the board has secured an outside opinion from council regarding any risk the town is assuming from a fiduciary perspective. I think about Mr. Borkholder's presentation and other data that we've been presented, and it's very compelling. And I'm concerned that if we were to end up in a bad situation from a legal perspective, that we might not fare well. So I'm wondering if the board has secured an outside legal opinion.
Okay. All right,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Chuck won't speak.
No, that was just the cursor over him. That wasn't his hand. We did that last time. We called him out, but he didn't want to say anything. I believe it was Chuck. Marion, did you have one last quick comment?
Yeah, one last quick comment. Part of the problem is that this is the end of June. All of these discussions should be happening at budget time in October. This is not the time to do it, and you're setting a precedent here by having these discussions this time of year. It's ridiculous.
Okay. So I will assume that everyone who would like to be heard has been heard. Again, one more time, any board members?
Well, we're gonna have a time to talk. when the
We will have-
resolution comes up, right?
Yeah, we will have time to debate and discuss the resolution. So without objection, at this time, I declare this public hearing closed. Thank you, everybody for your comments, and thank you for your input as well. Okay, reports of department heads and officials. Jim, do you have anything? Okay. I do not see our assessor on. Leif, do you want to add to yours, to the comment that you shared with the board? Anything else with your report?
No, you know what, let's, you've got a lot to do, let's just let that stand then.
Okay, I like it. Good answer. That was,
You're welcome, sir.
that was the right answer. That's the answer that we were looking for without asking for. Town clerk, anything?
No, nothing other than what was attached in my report in the attachment.
Okay, thank you very much. Sarah, do you have anything?
Yes, I did not prepare a monthly report of the actions in the planning department this month. I'll combine it with next month's report, but there are two documents in the report section that I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of. The first one is that on page 242 of the agenda, there is a report from the planning board. It is an advisory report pertaining to the current discussions around the PUD application. And then there's one other report from the open space project team on page 74 of the agenda. It's a joint memo from the open space team, the planning board, and the environmental conservation board regarding open space protection by the town board in the town. So I just wanted to make sure you guys saw that.
Okay, thank you very much for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Lindsay, do you have anything for HR? And parks?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just a couple updates actually for parks. So our inclusive playground, Motion Junction, the pavilion and the playground are officially open. So we are super excited. We had a really great event, a lot of community partnership. So if you haven't made your way out there yet, I would really recommend everyone in the community at least, go out there once or twice. It's pretty amazing of a project. So again, thank you town board and everyone who is involved. We also have food trucks throughout the summer. Every Wednesday at Outhouse Park. It's just something that we're providing. It's a different food truck every Wednesday. So if you're busy, you're out and about with sports or just, enjoying the nice weather, you can head out to Outhouse Park for some food trucks. We also have three events coming up. We have 2 more Music in the Park events on Wednesday, July 10th and August 14th, as well as our movie night in the park on August 16th. I also wanted to give out a reminder for our beach hours. We did officially finish our schedule through Labor Day, and I'm happy to say that we are able to keep Ononda and Butler Beach open through Labor Day. The hours at Ononda are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. for swimming, and at Butler Beach, it's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Those are the hours that it is staffed for lifeguards. Also, the first day of the YMCA camp started today down at Ononda. So we're super excited to welcome back campers, some new and return campers. So that's super exciting. And then just a reminder too, if you're visiting Ononda, there is no walk-in fee. So again, thank you to the town board for that. If you would like to park on Lakeside, there is a small fee for that, or you can choose to use the free parking on the uplands. So just wanted to share those few reminders and just really excited for the season to be really kicking off right now.
All right, thank you very much. All right, for the supervisor, deputy supervisor report, I have a bunch of things, so I'll be eating up some of that time that Leaf saved us. I'm sorry about that. Financial reports are in the agenda. I do have a few other comments that I'd like to share. We did have a very successful meeting on the boards on the 10th, where all the boards came together and shared ideas and shared thoughts. We are waiting on the summary from Matt Horn, who helped and directed that for us. He's going to provide us with a summary of that and suggestions that were made. And from that, we hope to improve communication. We hope to improve collaboration between the boards and align our vision as far as growth and development goes within the town of Canandaigua, and to make sure that we align and there aren't really any philosophical gaps or procedural gaps that we have in that process. So I'd like to thank everybody who participated in that. We had a good turnout and a very good discussion on that. Let's see, what else do we have here? State of the state, went to the Senator Helming and Assemblyman Gallahan were here last week for the Chamber of Commerce State of the State presentation. They continue to advocate for us at Albany. The last 2 days of session, they had over 700 bills that each chamber debated. And sometimes those bills were presented in blocks of 300 that they just had to look at and approve up or down as a block. They didn't have any time to really debate or discuss those because the debate and discussion was done before they received them. Is that a good summation of how things kind of happened? So, but they continue to advocate, and we had a very effective meeting with business leaders and community leaders from Ontario County. This Thursday, right, Sue?
Yep.
This Thursday is the ribbon cutting for the new Popeyes in Canandaigua. It's been open for a while, but they're celebrating that with the ribbon cutting. They do have some fun events planned around that. They do have some drawings and other things. TVs, iPads, other things like that that you can kind of, you can throw in for the drawings. So if anybody's inclined for some of that Louisiana chicken, I don't know if that's, does that count as an endorsement?
No.
Okay,
Not yet.
Not yet?
You're getting there.
Okay, so feel free, if you're around, if you're available to attend that ribbon cutting. Also, I mentioned that I was able to visit Ononda Park with the DEC. The reason being is about 4 years ago, we thought we were really close for the land transfer to have the lower portion, which is not owned by the town of Canandaigua. It is owned by New York State. As part of the agreement 30 years ago, that was supposed to be transferred back to the town of Canandaigua at some point in the future. That still has not happened. We're still waiting on that. So with some help from a contact that I have at the governor's office and our local members in the Assembly and the Senate, we were able to get the regional directors out to walk the park. And one concern, you know, and really the concern that they had is not wanting to lose a relationship that we have. Which is something that we do want to keep going forward, the relationship that we have with the state at Ononda. One other interesting thing is, and this is a plug for everyone who enjoys fishing, it is free to fish at Ononda Park. Entrance is free if you fish. There's no charge as part of that DEC agreement, which I didn't know, and that's one of the concerns they had, and why I think they might have been dragging their feet, is fear of losing some of the arrangements that they had with the town prior. Which I assured them, we have no interest in changing that. So currently it sits with the Attorney General's office, just waiting for that final approval, final comment, and hopefully we can get some action and get some traction on that and finally have that celebration to bring Ononda into the fold owned by the town. Now, why does that matter? It's hard to invest and really make improvements on something that you have occupy. It's not like the uplands, which we own. It's hard to invest in something that's owned by another entity, applying for grants, applying for other things like that as well. So this will give us that opportunity to really invest in the lower portion of Ononda and make any necessary improvements that might come up. Streetlights on 332, we're close to having those moving forward on those. It's pretty dark if you go up past Tops and you head north. So thanks to Mr. Fletcher, we had bids for those that came in. There's a resolution on that in the agenda tonight. They came in quite a bit under what we thought they would be, saving us a couple $100,000. And those will be going in. It'll be a few months still, but look for those new streetlights to go in and for the improvement. And the last thing that I have as a point of discussion for the board, and I'll be looking for some discussion and input on this. We have had, it has come up about how organizations and groups get involved in some of the activities that we have. We currently have the ability for organizations to sponsor events, to sponsor benches, to sponsor all sorts of things, whether they be public or private. It has come up about Halloween at Ononda, about broadening that scope and allowing more groups to be part of Halloween at Ononda, to participate and provide free events and free things for our residents. So I've been asked to kind of spearhead this discussion and just bring it up for a point of discussion tonight by our Parks Department. There was a letter received by the Town of Canandaigua Republican Committee asking to set up a tent at Ononda with face painting, with family-friendly activities. And I just want the input on the board as far as that, and as far as also the ability for groups to get involved in events like that.
How far would this go? I mean, are you talking like food trucks and stuff like that? Or?
Well, currently we have private so specifically for Halloween at Ononda, we have Cheshire Fire Department. Bristol Aerial Team comes in, they're paid to come in. But there are a lot of other organizations that volunteer their time and volunteer with their resources, and they do it at no cost.
Right.
So Rotary and Kiwanis, they run the haunted house, and they run the story group with library.
CCAT.
So, you know, would it involve to food trucks? I had not thought of that. I don't think so. As far as tent, you know, setting up the tent and providing an activity for residents and kids to do.
Well, I guess my question is how broad are you talking? I mean, what, and it's kind of crowded down there, you know, where you put all the people.
Right.
That's a difficulty. Now it's a lot of parking up on the, you know, up on the hill. I mean, you're very limited.
No, it's very, yeah.
Lakeside, so you wind up with, you know, people up Orange Road and all over. Some point do we need to think about having some kind of busing shuttle service or, you know, to
park them off site and bring them in.
It's
broadening
it out more here.
Lindsay, are you there? Did we have a shuttle bus one year for Halloween at Ononda?
Yes, I believe that was offered once. I'm not sure how well used it was.
Yeah, I think that's why we went away from it, right?
But it might have to be done this
Oh, yeah, that's true.
because of the improvements on the.
Improvements on the upper half, depending on the
I
time.
was involved in parking last year, Terry, and you're right. I mean, they parked all the way.
We were all the way up. to the
All the
top.
way up,
Yeah.
all the way up. So, yeah, we really couldn't get, any more cars.
No.
It's a great problem to have.
It is a good problem to have, yeah.
Yeah. Jim,
And I don't know that that affects the people down on the lakeside that are doing things. And we certainly don't want to turn away people from our
Right.
event, so we'll have to figure that out. And maybe Barnes Road represents another parking area, just what people walking on the road, I'm sure, Jim, is a problem.
Yeah, it is. It's great for anybody who's elderly or
Yeah.
with young children trying to push a stroller up or down Barnes Road. That would be a challenge.
We could ask volunteers to park in that parking lot though, or carpool a little bit more.
I will say there were strollers pushing up that road up by King Hall, so I mean, they were getting after it, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the special events committee could probably.
Yeah.
have
Well,
recommendations on parking issues.
Well, as far as parking and things like that go, the question, because the Parks Committee has been approached by multiple groups about getting involved. And there's no real avenue. We have the Republican Committee, we have there are businesses that have wanted to set up set up a tent and give away freebies.
Well, that probably isn't going to attract a lot more people
No,
in and of itself.
no,
But I'm interested in who else is
Yeah.
that might draw more people, which would necessitate.
well, Nick and the nice guys, yeah. But do we,
I need to understand your question better.
go ahead.
Are you asking us whether it's appropriate for the Republican committee to help sponsor an event? Or political parties or political organizations to help sponsor an event? Is that your question?
We've already decided that. We've decided that with the ability for anybody to sponsorship forms go out to all. They're available to anyone who wants to sponsor music in the parks or movie in the parks or any of the other events that we have, benches or things like that. This is different because to this point, there hasn't been board oversight as far as who is involved, there's who is involved, what organizations are involved, what organizations participate outside of the special events committee.
So is that your question then?
So the
Whether we ought to
question
let
is, should we hold?
Public entities participate in the sponsorship of?
Well, I don't think Onan is a sponsorship. I think what they're asking for, and I think what Jared's asking for, is they want to put a tent up and paint faces, kids' faces.
How often?
Just for Halloween and Onan.
Just once,
So,
once, yeah.
So.
So it'd be an annual, and I don't know how.
There might be other
groups-
organizations that want to participate in the
Yeah.
Oneida event.
Yeah,
The question
that's
is, do we want
Yeah.
outside organizations to participate? That's the question.
They already do. That's what
We
I'm saying. Kiwanis does, Rotary does, CCAT does. There's a bubble dye there sometimes. There's
So how
there's
do
a
we-
we pay for other organizations. The Cheshire Fire Department comes
Right.
down as well.
So how do you, we're already saying yes. So,
Right.
well, I don't understand the question. Are we saying we want to cap it at a particular number? Or are we saying that?
So there
I don't
was, so there was.
Understand.
So, and that, and I'm glad you're clarifying and asking for clarification on that. So I know that the Parks Committee, the Parks Committee was approached. I believe they were approached. There's a letter. that
Jared,
was-
would you like me to step in really quick? Because I'm the one that received the request.
Okay, go ahead, Lindsay.
Sorry to interrupt. John, to answer your question or to clarify a little bit more, there's currently no formal process for organizations to attend or express interest in any of these events. So I believe the board needs to make a decision or decide, do we want to create some type of formal process for any type of organization that would be interested in participating in events like Halloween at Onanda or, the food truck nights that we are just, trying out this summer. I've been getting a lot of interest from outside organizations, which is great and it's amazing. We just don't currently have a formal process. And I feel that this is something that the town board needs to make a decision on whether or not we need a formal process. Should we explore a formal process? Is there support for that? I hope that answers your question or
Yeah,
clarifies
I
a little
think
bit more.
in summary, what you're saying, Lindsay, is that we've been getting a lot of interest in outside participation. And you're questioning if it continues to grow like this, should there be a process that we have to review it and consider it at some level in the town, right?
Correct. Yes, you are correct.
That's a great summary. of that.
Lindsay, has there been a problem so far? Have you run into issues surrounding the current, what you're currently doing?
No, not issues. It's just how, there's no formal way for us. We're not taking, how do I explain this? So we don't have like a formal intake process at the moment. So I have had to turn away some people for our food trucks because we already have them lined up. I would like to avoid that in the future to give everyone an opportunity who's interested in providing this for, anyone who's visiting the parks. But for example, like the request we received from the Republican committee, that's not an issue at all. It's wonderful that we're getting requests like this. But, when it comes to, for example, a special events like that, I just don't know how far that will go with the committee if there is not a formal process to
Well, I know
receive these
Mark-
types of requests.
I know Mark McNeil went out and recruited a lot of those food trucks and, had a number of issues doing that because it was an unproven event. And those people always want numbers to justify their time and effort. So I think it's been successful enough where other people want to show up to do it because they've seen success. And that's really on those people, not us, to get in on that early. I know the same thing comes up with bands and music at the park, that it's the Parks Committee's decision making in that they do that, from that standpoint.
Yeah, I would assume that parks events would be decided by the Parks Committee unless there's an issue or a problem. When we talked about updating the fee schedule to include sponsorships for trees and benches, we had indicated that it should be brought to the town board's attention if there was a question about an organization so that we could confirm that they were not a hate group or something like that. I don't think this rises to that question, but in my opinion, I would trust both the Special Events Committee for Halloween and Onondaga and the Parks Committee to be able to
I agree.
figure out their own process for, if we have 17 food trucks that want to come and we have 3 spots, great, the Parks Committee can check out those 17 food trucks and see which ones they like the best and think would be the best fit for the event.
So I think the question that came up as part of this and what precipitated this was some direction from the board as far as the process by which somebody could apply to participate in some of these special events that we have. We're highlighting Onondaga because that's the biggest one that we have. So if a group wants to come in and set up, let's say, I don't know, Popeyes wants to come in and have a booth and give away little chicken things at Halloween at Onondaga, or a car, or some local, we have so many great businesses in town. Let's say they want to give away, magnets or a t-shirt, have something like that where it's just to give away, it's free, there's no cost to anyone. How would somebody like that, whether it be a business like that, maybe trying to get their name out, whether it be an organization, how did they get involved? How did Rotary get involved?
So I think between special events and parks, I think we've got that answer. We don't have a problem now. We might need to form something downstream, but it doesn't sound to me like now we have an issue with that. They're figuring it out.
So would you like a little advice or a suggestion? If it were me, and it's something that I think could become an issue before you have any warning of it. For example, if the Parks Committee says, yup, Democratic Party of Canandaigua, you're gonna paint faces and this is your spot right here next to the driveway. And then the Republicans say, wait, I want to paint faces too at the Halloween event. And how come the Democrats get to and we don't? Because now you've got 2 face painters. We don't want that, that's a bad event. Your Special Events Committee is saying, wait, we don't want 2 face painters, that's terrible. And so maybe there's, if the town board were to adopt a policy on parks sponsorships or recreation sponsorship, recreation program sponsorship. You know, just one pager that says, you know, the special events committee accepts applications and this is how they evaluate them. And if two of the same, you know, if there's a reason we're gonna reject one, you know, they go back and say, hey, wait, we don't want you to face paint, can you do balloon animals? Cause I would imagine the Republican, you can do balloon animals, right? Sorry. But I think maybe just a little one-page policy might be useful. Cause you're not gonna know it's an issue until
it's an issue.
become an issue.
Right.
I have a
Any
different
other
take.
thoughts?
I have a different take, guys. I lean to what Dave and Adeline are saying, but I would add to it even further. You know, I think that the committees can go and talk about this. And if we had a town manager on board, the town manager could work with those committees to develop a process, if a process is needed, and then they could bring it to the board for consideration. So I would give it. Lacking a town manager, hopefully that issue is resolved here in the near future.
Well, see, on that, I disagree though, because you would need to develop a policy, you need direction of the board.
Policy.
You need direction of the board to say, yeah.
It's the policy. You don't want politics to get involved, or you want to limit the number? How can we limit the number without having the Parks Committee come back to us and tell us there ought to be 20 vendors, or we can accept 10 vendors, or, I mean, how do we set a policy for this?
Boy, I think we empower the committees that we have
That's right.
until, and I hear where you're coming from, Chris, when we're not gonna know it's a problem until it's a problem, but I mean, I've been on the Parks Committee, I know Adeline's been on the Parks Committee, I mean, that's your role to do that stuff. Until there's a problem, why would we intercede and give them direction? They're doing a good job so far. There's thousands of people that come to Halloween in Orlando. There's now hundreds of people that come to the concert nights in July, June, July, and August now. So I wouldn't want to restrict them on anything, to be honest with you.
I would agree.
So what you're saying is you carte blanche, do whatever you want.
So they've done a
You
great
don't
job.
Care.
No, I care very much.
Well,
But
why not have
I
some
think
policy?
we as a town board have empowered very good people that are getting very good things done. That's what I think.
If there's a problem, after the fact, we'll address it.
But I think that the
I mean, that's
committee
not-
can address it. No, why can't the Parks Committee why can't they address it?
Why
We're only
do you
gonna have
have a town
50
board?
vendors. We've already got 50 thrown out, sorry.
The town board doesn't know that there's 50 spots at Halloween Ananda or 15 spots or 20 spots. We don't know that. That's something the special events committee knows.
What's in
I
the
would
that
want
they
them to
chosen?
review it and come back to us with a recommendation if they want a policy. And if they, you know, what that policy should be, and then we can talk about it, because this is not an area of specialty for all five of us.
I'm not sure, you'd have to have special events if they'd ever turned anybody down. I mean, I've been involved with that since the inception of Halloween in Ananda. And, you know, it first started out with 5 or 6 vendors, you know, we're looking for people, they were knocking on doors to get people.
Yeah, you
to
asked
come.
how Rotary
Yeah.
Kiwanis got involved. It's because
Yeah.
special events reached out and asked Rotary Kiwanis to
Yeah.
come, so.
But their involvement isn't the same as this in the sense that, are they contributing money towards the cost of putting the event on?
I don't,
Or are they?
something that they're
physically
giving away,
there?
like, as an example, the Parks Committee gives thousands of pieces of candy away, sits up a little tent, gives away, everybody dresses up, gives away candy. I don't believe anybody pays, and I'm speaking out of turn, I don't know, but I
Yeah, we all
know
do.
that, pardon me,
Town pays.
Town pays what?
For the candy, who buys the candy?
Well, I know I've donated
So have I.
bag after bag after bag, so I'm sure the town does donate some, but there's thousands of pieces of candy that they give away,
I
so.
understand, I've been there.
Yeah.
So coming back to this stuff though, and I think
Is this
that,
a political thing or not? Will it be something that says Republican Party?
Probably.
the letter states,
These things that identify groups like
yeah,
Kiwanis Club, Rotary Club, they were in
The
that
parks.
class.
child of family events, face painting like has always been in Halloween candy. That's really about that, but I assume any group that is there, you know, Rotary's identified, the fire department's definitely identified. But I think that the point and the reason why this was brought to us for input and, and discussion was the fact that somebody comes up and says, I tried to be at Ononda, but they said no.
I think the reason it's brought up is because it's a very contentious election year myself. And looking for some cover perhaps, or Republicans are looking for some votes perhaps, or, let's not be naive here,
So is it,
There's an ulterior motive here, that.
and there's no issue with anybody who comes in and does, and
Well,
does those.
Democrats can do
Yeah,
it.
anybody can.
Absolutely, anybody can, we don't control that.
My point, Dave, is this, that I'm not one that will say, town board is just gonna say, you guys do whatever you want, we don't care.
Well, I'm not saying that either, Terry, what I am saying is they've done a wonderful job so far. So why do we want to put some guardrails on something that doesn't need
I
guardrails?
think what Chris recommended is not really a guardrail. It's just kind of a
Well-
statement from the town board.
Before we
could
do
say
anything, I
trust
would like
you
to hear
do
from
that.
special events and parks on this particular issue, like how do we do that? How is that done? And if something isn't broken, I personally am not for fixing.
Well,
it.
let's ask them, how many vendors we should have.
Right, well, I know we've always been out shaking the trees to get vendors, that's what I'm saying, I don't know if they're in that position anymore where people come to them, so I don't.
Apparently,
Can I
it's coming to
follow
us
up
now.
my statement? I recommended that maybe this is an appropriate thing for a town board policy. I wasn't suggesting that any of the 5 of you write it. My thought in my, what I was thinking was Lindsay and the committees could have
That's fine.
proposed something to you. Is that something you'd be open to if they, if they feel they need? where
If the
they
committees
want-
would recommend that,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
always
all-
open to their suggestions
That
and
would-
all of our town boards.
So-
If the committee say, hey, we want
Cover also.
something,
Right.
I'm all for that.
And I think so, building off of that, and as part of that, and I think. That discussions like this are sometimes discussions that are lacking, and I think it's important to have discussions like this at times. And I don't think it's something that we would wanna ever hand to someone and say, here, just do it. Without direction to go forth and do that. I will reach out to the special events committee and the parks committee and say, what's your process? How do you choose people to participate in movie night, whatever else? I mean, we know we have the sponsors, but the bands or the food trucks. And then to the parks, to the, and then for Ononda, how do you get people involved in Ononda? How do you reach out to bring in new fresh faces? How do you try to liven the game up a little bit? How did you choose the people that you had? What's the process by which you selected them to be part of that? Can somebody else come in? I think that's the gist of all of this, is how did you get who you have? And how did you allow other people to get, a spot in the event?
Sure.
Is that fair? Okay. All right. Well, that was good. So I burned up some of your time there, so you're welcome for that.
A lot of. I can do it really fast.
Okay, for boards and committees or town board committees, anything for finance, Adeline?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, planning and public works?
At the latest meeting, we had a lively discussion about the transfer station and how to regulate, make sure that our residents are the ones that are using the facilities. And as in the past, we've decided there's a lot more to do. We probably won't be taking on a $5 million project to build a new transfer station in the short term, so we are thinking along the lines of getting somebody in here to talk about RFID identification tag on a vehicle that would at least signal that there's an issue with somebody, but it's a really difficult thing to monitor and to police. I mean, it's we've all been there at some point, and it's semi-controlled chaos.
It's a good word for it. More than one word for it. Anything else? No. All right, ordinance?
Yeah, we'll be looking at in July first meeting, Monday, incentive zoning, we're gonna take a look at cannabis, and now it sounds like maybe we'll do something with firefighter retirement as well, so. I'm not sure we'll get that on the docket.
Yeah, probably not
for
yet.
Next Monday, but that's on the radar screen now.
Okay. All right. So, boards and committees, citizen boards and committees, and Dennis, you have your report ready to go, and Dennis will be presenting on special events, the 4th of July, and probably some tree team information as well.
Right, we are planning the July 4th parade. Basically, we'll start out with Tim Stryker with his antique tractor. He's been with us since day one, since we've been involved in the parade. Jim will be having one of the large town trucks, and then it'll be followed by 3 or 4 of the other town trucks. We're inviting any of you that would like to march or ride one of the trucks. If you let us know, that's fine. If you haven't, we ask you to call Lindsay and let her know that you're going to be involved in the parade. We don't have any policy for people that want to be in the parade, I guess.
I'll get back to us on that, and we'll let you know if we approve our participation.
A background check or something.
You had to go there, didn't you?
People involved in the parade. The vehicles will have a banner that will promote the fireworks on July 6th, the fireworks on July 6th and not July 4th. If you would like to be involved in helping set up the trucks and decorate the trucks, we'll be doing that on July 3rd at 2 o'clock. So I don't know if you have any questions about the July 4th parade.
Any questions for Dennis?
I also this morning put in two of our visits from the tree team in the mailboxes. I don't know if I have time to look at it.
All right, thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
All right, we now have our next privilege of the floor. Is there anyone who would like to be heard at this time? Is there anyone online who would like to be heard? All right, seeing no hands, we'll move on to resolutions and motions.
Supervisor, can I make a motion to move 180 and 181 to the beginning of the pile as opposed to the end?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at one. Let's take them out of order. Let's take 180 and 181 out of order. So we'll begin with resolution number 180, adopting a local law to increase the salary of the elected highway superintendent.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by Adeline. Is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, I think there was a discussion held to change the numbers here. And I don't know if you want to outline your change.
So there were some previous, so I had met with Mr. Fletcher prior and we had discussed as far as this resolution is written right now in this local law to adjust the highway superintendent line increase down to 15,000 from the 30,000 that was proposed. With no increase to the water at this time, and to review the rest when we come up to the budget season. And the 2000, budget season and the 2025 cycle. So that if there's consensus to move forward with that and to entertain that, it would require another local law and another public hearing for next month. I do have a local law and a public hearing that I wrote up to share, and I had Mr. Nadler look it over to make sure it was okay.
The proposed resolution to set a public hearing
And a proposed resolution, so.
and a proposed local law to reflect the numbers that Jared just suggested. How you could motion to table the two 180 and 181, I believe, indefinitely. And then we would solve 2020, this proposed resolution to set a public hearing, 2024-180.
I didn't number it.
You could insert 180A
Okay.
there.
So the discussion on the table is reducing that $30,000 increase to 15. Is there anybody opposed to that adjustment?
So just to confirm, so water would stay as is through the budget hearing period. And highway would go up $15,000 for the elected official superintendent's salary.
Yes, that is correct.
So the overall increase would be $15,000.
That is correct.
I don't like that it's not happening in the budget period, but based on Jim's extensive experience, and the fact that I do think hiring two people with two different, extra, benefit packages would cost more than Jim. You know, I think we all recognize the value in retaining Jim here. It was a tough number to swallow. This is a lot easier number to swallow.
Where would the money come from?
Unassigned fund balance. So one thing that I do want to, and I know that we've all wrestled with this, and I know there's been great input from the public tonight and everybody who has given great input. Those who have spoken here tonight, those who have spoken outside of tonight. And it is that difficult decision that we've got to look at. You have somebody who does an excellent job, and again, I haven't heard anybody say that, you know, I haven't heard any complaints. Typically the calls and everything that I get is compliments. I shared something to the entire board from a resident who listed all these excellent accomplishments and things that we've been able to get done. The lighting project, because we're managing it, our highway department's managing it, came in $200,000 under budget. The other projects that we have are coming in under budget. We have $2 million to invest in Ononda Park in the uplands. A lot of that money isn't going to need to be spent to hire someone to do that because we'll be managing that in-house. I also understand that it's a large number when you're thinking about it in that regard. I also, you know, we also look at it, if you had two people at 90 plus 30,000 in benefits, you'd have 240,000 plus other associated costs, trucks, equipment, and things like that. So it's something that the board continues to look at and that we've continued to debate internally, debate publicly, and have those discussions. But I think taking that to 15, I can support looking at that because it is more it's still significant, but it's more in line. And plus, as Jim, as you said, in the last year, Jim has taken on the MS4, which is the stormwater review. That's, I can't remember what we paid outside firms to manage that before, but some municipalities pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for an outside stormwater management company to come in. So there have been savings, and there are ways to point by point justify it as well.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Jim, is there anybody that you train to like be your backup or a deputy in both of these positions? Is there somebody that, like, if you go on vacation, is there somebody that can help fulfill your job responsibilities? Because I mean, that's a big concern of mine with this too, is it's just, you know, if you do decide to leave someday, what do we do? You know, and I want there to be somebody that knows what you do in the town.
Jared, I've had discussions here I have about finding redundancy above just a deputy. The deputy fills in when I leave. The deputy doesn't do what I do every day. So as I explained to him, we don't have a DPW, we have elected highway superintendent and deputy. If you're like a city, you have a DPW director and an assistant DPW director. Somehow we can't use that title because we don't have it. But somewhere there, we have to figure out how to come up with a title to make that person in a role be able to be, I'll see, what I do when gone for next for future planning of support is coming.
Succession
Succession planning, thank you for the town. So that is something Jared and I have talked about. At length. We like the idea, just not sure how we're gonna get to that idea, just due to civil service. What is it called?
I mean, you should be able to take a vacation and be gone for a couple of weeks and have it run smoothly in your absence. One would hope. So,
That position isn't just getting the guys organized at 6 in the morning and say, you go get asphalt, you run a roller and you do this. My 15 years I've been on the board working with Jim. I've seen him grow a lot over those years into what he is now. There's nobody in this county who can touch that guy. That's what Greg said earlier, is the gospel truth. A lot of these towns have very small staffs. Jim's managing a very large staff. Much more complex than just about any other town. You go into the city, they have some comparable issues and problems and situations, but over those years, as Jim has grown and Jim has taken on a lot more responsibilities. The money that we're talking about here, you either go to Jim or go to MRB at 120 to 150 bucks an hour to manage your project. We don't have to do that. We've got a guy here who's capable of doing that. No, seriously, I mean, I'm not joking. It would go to somebody else. Because you have to have that in order to prove that, you know, you are operating efficiently and with the taxpayers in mind. I can't say enough good things about Jim. He's good as gold. I mean, some of these other towns that have 2 people doing this work, you have to ask yourself, is that town really getting the best bang for their buck? Towns that have somebody that is a water and superintendent exclusively, is it really a 40-hour job for that guy, or do they have to have somebody that can fulfill the job needs? And that's what the going rate is. You go out and look around and try to hire somebody to do that water job. You look at the advertisements that are out there for people to do this kind of work. There aren't very many applicants because it's very specialized work. This work, some people in condescending manner might say, well, it ain't rocket science. And I'm not saying it is rocket science, but it takes a very specialized individual to handle the breadth of responsibilities that this guy does. I have absolutely no problem with this increase here.
So Terry, I agree with what you're saying, but I think we have a process in place that how we decide salary, and all of a sudden we're taking it from a budget year to somewhere in the middle. So in my opinion, I'm not, this is not a personal thing with Jim, it's about us as a town board deciding that midstream in our budget year, we're gonna make significant changes, which I disagree with.
Is there another change you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about changing salary in mid-year.
Yeah, you said changes plural, that's why.
Well, change, it was changes, it still is changes, and it's trying to get to change.
Right.
But my issue is the process, not Jim or anything, it's us. What is our process? Is our process every time something happens, we change our process?
Well, I think our process is we keep our ear to the ground, and if one of the key people is offered an opportunity to go someplace else, we look at the situation, we analyze it, and we say it's worth this many dollars, it's worth this much vacation time, or whatever way you want to quantify that, we make an adjustment, whether it's the first day of the year or the last day of the year. That's my position.
And I disagree with that. I think we get a budget, we do a budget process, and we try to forecast things out there. And there's very few controllables that we have, but this happens to be one of them.
If we were in a situation where our budget was running very close to a, break even, I might not take this position at this point in time, but we aren't. And we all know that.
But I'm right, but I'm talking about the process. I'm not talking about money. We have money, do we not have money?
Dense, Dave, I understand.
Right, but
I said, I disagree with you.
Okay.
You have that
Yep,
position,
I
I
agree.
don't.
Okay, good.
Enough said.
Any other comment? John, do you have anything?
Well, I got a lot of comments, but I think if we are going to have another resolution on this and another public hearing on this, reducing the request for the consideration from 30 to 15. And if Jim is happy with that, then I'm happy with, I guess, either tabling this or voting against this. And looking at the new resolution when it comes before us, and I'll make my comments then.
Okay. So you're gonna reserve judgment till next month?
No, I already have my opinion made up and I already have my position made up. And my position is not gonna waver. It is what it is, and I'm willing to talk about it at the next resolution. Okay.
Jim, how many hours do you put in weekly?
Average 55.
Because I know that, and I do want to explain with that, and that was some question, it's a question that comes up a lot. Not just for this position, but for electeds in general, elected positions. If you're elected to a position, there's no time clock requirement. Okay, you could work a day, you could work 365 days in a year. There's nothing that says what that requirement is. The only way you get any feedback on that is to present a record of activities to New York State, and then they calculate it through the clerk's office, and they calculate it, and then you are given a number of days average that you work per month. Or a number of, it's broken down to your average hours per day. So that's how it's broken down. So you can have, and we've seen it throughout history and throughout time, where you have elected officials who don't put in that amount of, the same amount of time that they should, and they slack on those responsibilities. So that's why, some of the questions that I had about, is it full-time or part-time or what is it? Those are not, there's no real answer to that. The hours are definitely full-time, but to put a full-time or part-time next to any sort of elected official in New York State, and I think anywhere throughout the country, it's very difficult to do that, to say, we all know that it's, you're there, somebody's there a lot. And they're there, the equivalent of what would be full-time, but it's hard to say, you have to be here 8 to 5, because we couldn't do that. We couldn't say your hours are 8 to 5. No, your hours are Monday through Saturday. So that's just something to clarify with that, with some of those questions and comments that came up.
All right, you forced me to talk.
Did I force you? What? I can't force you to do anything, John. Come on.
Jared's been able to force you to do it.
Yeah, I can't force you to do anything, but
Well,
of your own free will and choice.
My
Go ahead
own
and
free
speak.
will and choice. I think it goes beyond what you're saying, Jared. I mean, here you heard fire chief, talk about how he met with Jim for 4 hours after midnight just this past week. I mean, we didn't pay him to say that. I'm sure Jim didn't encourage him to say that. And I know that's not the only time that he comes in and does that. And there are times when there are water breaks. There are times when there are fire hydrant issues. There's times when there are snow plowing issues, where this man has to come in at all hours of the night to serve our community. And I think this man does an outstanding job. Most of you probably know I've been in the construction business my whole life. And I mean my whole life. And I have to say, I've met a lot of operational officers in my time. And this gentleman here, he's right there in the top 10% of the people that I've worked with and met through the years as far as operational excellence is concerned and operational achievement is concerned. I think he's in a class with a very few people. And that's all I'm going to say about Jim right now. I'll save the rest for what I have to say for the time when it is more appropriate. But Dave, I have to say that I could not disagree with you more. Life doesn't happen on our schedule. It doesn't happen on our budgeting schedule. And if this gentleman has an opportunity to enhance his quality of life and that of his family, we can't ask him to wait till budget season for us to go and make a decision on it. That's just not how the world works. And I'm sorry, but I disagree with you and I agree with Terry completely on that. So I will speak the rest of my mind at our next board meeting when a new resolution comes before us to increase this gentleman's salary by $15,000. And I'll say more at that time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to be heard? Any other board members with comment on this? So I believe, and it was brought up, and I know it was alluded to, we have resolution 180 on the table right now. So I believe consensus is to lay that over indefinitely.
I want to talk about that a little bit more, and I want advice of counsel. Knowing that we are going to bring forth a new resolution next month, why would we lay it over? Why wouldn't we just vote on it and put it to bed now?
You have that option.
Are there any negatives associated with voting against that now and waiting for a new resolution at our next meeting?
In the future, someone running against you for office could say you voted against the salary or voted for the salary. That's one thing I could think of.
Well, you voted against this. No.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can really get one of each. if you
People can
want.
make whatever they want out of something like that, instead of like,
It's the only negative that I can see is that it's an action of the town board that it would be, or the only, I don't know if it's a negative or anything.
Let me ask you a follow-up question.
Let me finish the.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's an action of the town board which can be sued upon. Tabling it definitely, I don't think it's. Excuse me, it isn't.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to table indefinitely resolution number 180.
Second.
Okay, so moved by the table indefinitely, moved by Adeline, seconded by John. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, resolution number 180 is tabled indefinitely.
I'd also like to make a motion to table resolution 181 indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, moved by Adeline, seconded by Terry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one carries. All right, so we do have one more resolution that I would like to take action on, and you didn't give me a copy of my very own. Oh, sorry, Mr. Nadler. So we have we have resolution number 2024, which is it's setting a public hearing on a local law to authorize budget amendment and increase the salary for highway superintendent. The dollar amount being 60,000 to 75,000. And the date of the public hearing as outlined is the 22nd of July, 2024 at 6 p.m. So that is a resolution that was brought in and hand carried in before us with a draft local law pertaining to that resolution.
Is the draft local law pretty similar to what we
It's the
currently have?
same,
Different
it's the
numbers?
same thing, the resolution is the same with different numbers, the draft local law is the same with different numbers and any other dates that were. It just backs it, it's the same, it
So just
changes.
confirming this
So
would
that would get put
overall,
on that agenda with whatever number, wherever it appears.
you need a new number?
No, we can do number, we can call this new requested, you suggested 180.
181-A.
181-A.
Oh, wait, 180, sorry.
180.
180-A, yeah, okay. And then there will be a new resolution with a new number at the next meeting. This is just to set the public hearing. This we have to have tonight to set the public hearing for the next meeting.
So because you are required to have the proposed local law in its final form 5 days before you vote on it, before there's a public hearing on it. Now the local law you have before you doesn't work. So essentially, we're starting the process over from scratch. There'll be a notice of public hearing, then you'll vote on the local law in front of you. And I just want to remind you that
New York State Town Law, Section 27 does allow for a mid-season, a mid-budget year increase if it is subject to a public law, or excuse me, if it is authorized by a local law, adopted pursuant to municipal home rule law, and in this instance, that means there's a 45-day permissive referendum. That's different than a lot of permissive referendum here. 45-day permissive referendum. So if you were to adopt the local law in front of you
On the 22nd.
on the 22nd, you'd be looking at mid-September when it would take effect.
All right, so can I get a?
So can I, before we say that, I just wanna just make sure the public is aware, just to confirm. This public hearing would set the highway superintendent salary up $15,000. It would not adjust the water superintendent salary, basically giving Jim a $15,000 raise.
Correct.
Instead of, okay, thank you.
Any other-
I'll make that motion to add 101A. Setting a public hearing on a local law to authorize budget amendment and increase the salary for highway superintendent.
Second.
I think she.
180.
180.
180, sorry, change it from 181
Thank
to
you.
180.
Made it look like an 80.
Okay, so motion by Adeline, second by Terry. Any further discussion on 181A?
180A.
80A.
Yeah. I
It looks like
I
a
heard 180 and I said, I don't know. Okay, any further discussion on 180A, setting a public hearing? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I am opposed.
Okay,
I
so,
don't have a chair.
so the vote is 4-1. And that motion carries, and there will be another public hearing on July 22nd pertaining to this resolution.
Alternatively.
Really?
I think this is important.
Did you just come up with something?
No, I was trying to come up and I didn't want to interrupt. Alternatively, without a public hearing, without a local law adopted pursuant to municipal home rule law, and without a permissive referendum, you can right now increase the water superintendent's salary by whatever amount you choose, because it's not an elected official.
I don't think that makes sense because as we saw earlier, the highway superintendent is a little low for the position.
Well, and I wanted to make the point that this board wanted to do it according to the procedure, because he's also the elected highway superintendent.
Also, I would like public comment again, so. Jared, can you repeat the vote?
The vote was 4 in favor with Dave opposed. All right, thanks everybody for your input on that. Okay, we're going back in order, back to number 154.
Can you also just confirm that that was the vote for setting the public hearing?
Yes.
Not for that salary, so.
Correct.
So that is, there will be
Yeah.
a public hearing on that salary
I
at the
can-
next meeting.
Confirm everything that you just said. That we were setting the public hearing, we were not setting any salary. But since it was changed from what was originally posted, we had to go through and start the clock all over again with a public hearing. All right, resolution number 154, waiving the 2023 past due and active water account balances.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by John. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That resolution carries. Resolution number 155, accepting a soil erosion control surety at 2639 Cooley Road.
Motion.
Moved by John, seconded by Terry. Any discussion?
I just have a question on, I don't know if it applies to this one or all the other ones. We, in our meeting, we were not aware of all the chargebacks had been paid for all these. Can we just confirm?
That's not these.
That's not that one, this is the
Nope.
next one? Okay,
This is Cooley Road surety.
okay, sorry.
Any further? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That one carries. Resolution number 156, surety release, Venezia Associates Fox Ridge Phase 5B-1. Motion. Moved by John, seconded by Terry.
Same question I was trying to say before. Do we know if the chargebacks were
This
paid
is
for
where
these?
it's for.
Yeah,
Yes, this is where it was. Kristen,
Sorry.
can you
Yes.
confirm?
Everything has been paid in full,
so chargebacks were paid for that one
Yep.
and the next two as
all
well.
of them.
For all the.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Good.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, that one carries. Resolution 157, surety release Venezia Group LLC, Fox Ridge Phase 5B-2. Motion. Moved by. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, what's going on here?
I think we're gonna have to give them a name.
was it?
Share the love. Motion
These
moved by
two don't
John,
really have-
seconded by Terry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That one carries. Resolution 158, partial surety release Gerber Homes, Fox Ridge Phase 5B-3.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Terry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That one carries. Resolution number 159, approving the request for park reservation reimbursement due to extenuating circumstance.
Motion.
Moved by John, seconded by Terry. Any discussion on this one?
Can we have the clerk explain what the extenuating circumstance was?
I received an email from Kim Landrigan on Monday, May 20th, after she stopped into the office, indicating that she made a reservation on our portal and paid full price, realizing after the fact that she should have gotten the town resident discount, right? So there are 3 places where it indicates instructions on the website, and our policy is that you have to call in to get the discount code and provide your town resident information. She didn't see any 3 of those instances and claimed that it wasn't presented clearly enough. And I told her in order to break the policy, it would have to be approved by town board, any refund, and that she would need to write a letter. And I attached her letter into the agenda packet. And although I might personally disagree with some of her statements, I could see how if you're in a rush, you might have missed it. But the town, for clarification, the town policy does say no refunds are issued.
So having booked many times myself, I think it's pretty clear on the website that you need to somehow speak to someone in the clerk's office to put a discount code and or come in and do it. Do you have a recommendation on this at all? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you know, I'm inclined to not favor it because it is our policy and it's clearly stated, but.
I do think it's clearly stated policy. However, I also feel like sometimes you know, you could give somebody the benefit of the doubt once. And I would hope that she would not make another reservation without calling in to get the discount code. I mean, she's a lifelong town
She is a town
resident.
resident.
Yes,
Crystal, and you also, I think you said you changed it to the color.
I added, we did add another,
color.
yeah,
Highlight.
yes,
You mean that old red?
yes.
Yeah. And when it comes down to it for me, I mean, I get it. We're not out money because of it. So I'm okay with the reimbursement. Give the benefit. Any further comment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, that one carries. Resolution number 160, authorizing a budget amendments and increase of salary for senior clerk of highway and water departments.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by John. Any discussion on this one?
I have a question. I
Please.
guess my question would be, Dave, do you feel the same about this as you did about the highway superintendent? I kind of do. It's the same issue, right?
kind of do.
I think, I mean, Courtney's is sort of an unusual situation, and I agree, I believe that we should have discussions about salaries during the budget period. But Courtney's situation, there were two people working in her department, and she's taken over the responsibilities of both of those people in, off of the year. So there's a reason for why that increase is happening there, because there's increased responsibilities for Courtney.
To my point, there's reasons for life. Things happen. And I think we need to be flexible enough to accommodate the changes that happen in people's lives. Otherwise, we're gonna be losing a lot more employees.
Well, she definitely took on additional responsibility, there's no question about that.
Should she have waited?
No, I think that falls, you're talking about two different issues to me, John, because here's a person that is now doing somebody else's job as well as her own. And we're looking at increasing her compensation. Would I rather have it be in the budget year? Yes.
Life gets in the way.
Any further discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, that one carries. Resolution 161, authorization to allocate unassigned fund balance.
So moved.
Well, moved by Adeline, seconded by Terry. Any discussion?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, John.
We were told at the finance committee meeting that there was an error. What is the error? I still don't have an answer to my question.
So
I mean, did you get your emails?
I believe that that Jess sent out the email explaining. She
Can
sent
you
it,
tell me what it said?
what's that?
Can you please tell me what it said? Where was the error?
So the error was, so when we have the two pots for the unassigned fund balance, and it's tracked in different account, it was tracked in different accounts. Different systems. So initially, and I believe a lot of it was from what I saw was other supplies and other things that were taken out of that line. I believe a big chunk of that was for materials. So those were brought out, materials came out of there. But the other system that Jess used to pull from for the amount that we had to use and spend when we were looking at the unassigned fund balance to spend, didn't translate into that one. So she was pulling from something that did not read and draw from the other one because the systems didn't communicate with each other. So the bills were paid, everything was. And again, it could have been for road, it could have been for gravel or for other things, I'm not 100% sure. Those bills were paid, the money came out of there. It was not translated to the other line, so it seemed like we had the full amount, say $400,000, when actually 320,000 or whatever the amount was spent out of that line.
Let me try it a different way. Is that just?
Didn't get you?
Even more.
Sorry, anybody else confused?
No.
What is the value of the unassigned fund balance as we sit here right now?
Probably in my report here.
Like 1.5, 1.7.
No, that's
Not
it
yet,
for
that's what it will be.
adjustments. Right. Where is it at right now before we make any adjustments? What's the fund balance?
It's probably 3.7 ballpark.
What's the value of the mistake?
It wasn't a mistake, it just was not reflected in.
Let me
the
answer the
information
question
presented to
differently.
you.
What's the value of the money that wasn't accounted for?
Jim, are you pulling that up right now?
It's in our email that she sent off. this
So
week.
you had to put $350,000 in order to balance it.
Yeah, I think it was
We had
350.
$450. that
Four
wasn't
hundred
unassigned.
sixty-four, 238.86.
Current balance.
How much?
Difference of expenses.
How much was the difference?
464, 238.86.
I have to say that the spreadsheet that just sent out was a little confusing to me. It wasn't. To me, the question was. We had 450 that we hadn't assigned, other than what we were leaving in. The fund balance according to our policy. We had we had 450 after we went through that exercise in the public works meeting. We had to take 350 of that and put it in to balance.
Right.
But what I was looking for is what made up the 350? I mean, what were the specific expenses? They're probably in that great big spreadsheet.
They are.
I'm not sure which they were. I mean, it didn't answer the question. Right?
Hot mix asphalt.
So the items were, Jim,
When the person who dealt with us was entering invoices, they were not using the right account. It wasn't hidden each.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, I understand it. So the number is $454,238.
464, 238.86.
64 or 54?
464.
Thank you.
It's in the, yeah, do you have the email that we all got, Jim?
Okay, so on 5/4, when we met at the PPW meeting, we were given a spreadsheet that shows the general fund, AA 100, is having $4,465,072 in it.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with this number.
Where'd that money come from?
That's our normal
I'm
unassigned
hearing the
fund.
balance, what I just heard was the balance of the general fund was reduced by $464,238 because money came out
No,
of it.
that's not correct.
Right, good.
It was the
Help me
unassigned,
understand,
it was the unassigned, it was that fund balance line, like Jim was saying.
which was
Say it all the
4 million.
way, Jared.
What?
It's the unassigned fund.
It was that unassigned fund balance, so
It
when,
was 4,465,000.
can I finish a thought?
Yes, please.
Thank you, before I. So I know, and I don't know if you're getting at. That there was something that happened or would have adjusted. I know that you believe it might have adjusted our thought process on this. So I'm I'm trying to figure out where you're getting from. What you're getting at, but
I want to know how much money is in the general unassigned fund balance as we sit here right now before we make any adjustments.
That number is the
I was
same.
given a sheet at our PPW meeting that we worked off of, which showed us the general unassigned fund balance as being $4,465,007. Excuse me, let me repeat. $4,465,072.
And that's
I have that
correct.
spreadsheet right here in front of me.
That's not changing in any way, shape or form.
Okay,
From that
what
day.
fund balance then is being reduced
The
by?
highway, it was what was the capital project, I believe? Is that- It was H39, which was another place that we were taking funding from. And that did not have something hit on it, which they found in the audit, which we are then compensating for from the money we didn't spend from the unassigned fund balance. Remember, we left some extra there at the end? So we're grabbing from that to
But I
give
think-
Jim the same amount that we had agreed to give him, but instead it's coming from the unassigned fund balance as opposed to from Jim's special capital project.
Okay,
So the numbers in the end are the same, there's just, we're getting our policy in line with where our unassigned fund balance policy should be. It's good to be back in line with what our policy is.
Okay, so now I'm gonna ask the question a different way. The $464,238 then was associated with and reduced the DA 100 fund, the highway fund.
Highway general repairs contractual.
Which was given to us in a summary telling us there was $539,688.74 in it. Is that where the money, is that where the mistake was?
There was.
So in other words, we were given this sheet right here.
Yes.
At the PPW meeting. Subsequent to that, we were told there was an accounting error. I don't care who made it or how it was made. I'm asking a question. Which fund was wrong? Which fund was misstated?
Okay, so this fund.
All right,
The highway improvement reserve.
DA 232.
232 or 232? Okay, yes, this one right there. DA 232 is listed there at 360,000 and change.
Was overstated by
Or. No.
four.
That's more than that amount. So
64, 238.
Yep.
So that leaves the highway equipment reserve fund in a negative position as we speak.
I think you balanced the job when the error was found in the audit. And they used unappropriated fund balance to bring it back
To what?
to.
zero.
I don't know if it's zero, but I couldn't tell you without having it in front of me at the moment. I apologize.
So we reduced the 4,465,000 by some amount and transferred the money to DA 230. Do we know how much we transferred it to DA 230?
So
That's in that.
I don't have the stats. I don't have the stats in front of me. We could probably pull it up. We looked in the.
Okay.
In the report. If you have your financial report for the agenda, it's most likely in there.
So in essence, then. We do have less in the general fund. Than when this sheet was given to us, because we took money out of it and transferred it to DA 232 or 230, excuse me.
Might I mention that part of the problem with this discussion is that the meeting happened in the PPW meeting. So our finance clerk was unable to be there during the PPW meeting because she was out of town. And she schedules her time around when she has finance meetings. So because she wasn't there, we were working off the best of information that we had and making our conclusions. And I think the point is, our intent was to fund certain projects for Jim and other areas throughout the town. We were finding methods to do that with the information that we had on hand.
I agree.
And we've adjusted it since then, and now we are
I'm trying to figure out. what the
following that
adjustments were.
adjustment to this, to
And
be
I-
able to approve this today.
And I'm trying to figure out how much we have in the general fund.
That was answered
Because
for you.
what
in
we're
the
trying to do
emails.
now is redistribute. According to the numbers that are in here, $2.35 million out of the general fund.
As it says in the resolution, it's $2.5 billion out of the general fund.
No, if I add them all together, it's $2.35 million.
Well, we're
So-
going off of what's in the resolution as opposed to our notes from the meeting, so it's 2.5
I'm adding up all the
million.
notes, I'm adding up all the resolution dollars.
So
It's $2.35 million.
Jim, that entering discrepancy,
yes,
would that have affected the general fund?
yeah, because I didn't have money in there.
Okay,
Yeah, we spent money, it was entered incorrectly, it made the line negative.
okay.
So. But that's what happens with the capital fund, it goes negative, then it has to be brought over. from whatever town board set up for a reserve or. How are they put the money away to come over to pay me,
To bring that up,
right,
To
so
bring
it's
that-
shown negative always in each.
right, okay. And the auditors figured everything out that was part of
Yeah,
it.
they found out that line was overspent because it was incorrectly inputted
Coded.
into the system, which ordered that line. So they had to basically pull that money off of that 5110. 5110 line, put it back to a positive, and then take it out of each 39.
And those auditors didn't find any
No, there was
wrongdoing,
no-
there was nothing going on.
It was just incorrect input of
Income
each line.
incorrectly coded. And as Jess indicated in the last finance committee meeting, that issue has been rectified by her. She took the impetus to change it so that it would be a mandatory to take that money from one place and the other in the system as opposed to an optional left over from the previous year.
So my follow-up question, I'll ask you now.
Okay.
What is the fund balance policy say how much we should have in AA 100?
I think it's
We talked about that in our finance committee meeting.
1.5, right?
So 1 point,
No, it's based on the
1.7?
total, it's based on the total, I don't have it all.
It's a percentage, but right now it's 1.5 to 1.7.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 1.5 to 1.7.
It's based on a percentage of the total overall town budget. So it changes every year.
So
So this change of spending our unassigned fund balance primarily on highway related projects, including the street lighting, would get us into compliance with our own town policy on how high the unassigned fund balance would be. It would also complete a number of projects in the town, and it would also have us not just holding on to money the taxpayers put in, but spending the money when they go here.
no, I thank you for that. I already knew all of that. So I hope you're saying it for the
I'm
benefit
glad
of
you
the
already knew something that I said.
constituents.
That's good to hear.
I still want to know how much money's in the general fund, because if we're gonna
Same
so,
amount.
less than, let's say we got $4 million, round numbers, right?
So John, to
And
clarify,
then we're gonna take
do you,
2.35 out of it. Which that puts us down where the 1.7 where we should be, or thereabouts. And it's not gonna leave us 500,000 that we talked about using
correct.
as a TBD later on.
We do
right?
not, we don't have the TBD. Now, are you're asking about the general fund, the AA 100 general fund?
Yes,
So every month, there's a report in the agenda
yes,
on page 68
yes.
of the agenda. It says how much is in the general fund.
Okay.
So I could tell you, we can tell you, because you've asked it multiple times, or we can kind of show you where it is.
Well, I've at least got the answer to my question of where the error was now.
Right.
So it was in DA 230, so.
So
that's
these,
all I was asking for the last 2 weeks. So I'm ready to move on with regard to
So-
160.
right, but one point to clarify, all of this financial information is put in every single agenda.
Mhm.
The fund balances, the general fund balance of every fund, every capital project, every action, every lighting district, everything that's in there is included.
No kidding.
Well,
Is,
you were questioning, so it seems like you didn't know. I'm just trying to clarify and help you out.
that's what I see whether any of you knew where the error was.
Mhm.
And it took, well,
Well, did anybody,
it took Crystal Lynn to tell us where.
was anybody else concerned about the error? Where it was?
No,
Dave, Adeline?
It had been explained to us at least 3 times.
I wasn't
in finance
concerned. Terry, were you
meetings.
concerned?
Did anyone know that it was?
Hold on, hold on. Terry, were you concerned?
Mike, I said what my concern was earlier. We had 450, we had to take 350 out. The only question I had was, what were the specific items in that 350? It's probably buried in there somewhere.
It was, we already said, it was the
hot
the
asphalt.
hot asphalt.
but Asphalt, and all that, if that adds up to that number,
Mm-hmm.
it's fine.
Me also.
The question I had though, did we move, for this lighting, did we also move money to that, capital project for, from Uptown Highway? How much is in that capital project? I don't remember. For lighting.
100,000.
The uptown,
On
well,
page 35.
the uptown, yeah, we created the capital project.
right?
Yeah, and it runs around, and it does run around.
We already
100 grand.
transferred money.
So
Now we're putting 700 more.
why do we need to
So
put
that-
700,000 into that?
Well,
I think what it came down to was instead of writing another or discussing another larger or smaller amount for lighting district, we felt it was best to leave it alone and approve the way it is, because we don't want to spend more than 475, because
Oh, yeah.
sure they're gonna find something.
Mhm.
Whatever's left of that money, the town board, they close that
Yeah, pull it back. up.
fund out and then put it back into the A fund, and the town board can then repurpose the money where it's needed.
Right.
So I understand that, but it seems like to put $800,000 into the lighting on 332 budget line item seems a little excessive.
So I asked this exact question in the agenda review meeting last week that you were at. Jim answered the question with, I believe your intention was that, yes, that's the cost of it, but it's easier to return the money back to if it's not used than continually reallocate it in future meetings.
And with my understanding, you really don't know what you're gonna get into, you do get into it in the ground.
You're not wrong, right? We could find bad wire or some
Yeah.
bad conduit, something, right, maybe not every inch was inspected when we hired them to go out and do that.
No.
Very
Yeah,
confident.
something actually.
Will we use 800? I certainly hope. But right now, it seems simpler for the board to put this money there, spend what is needed to repair it, and what's left, return to the aid fund. Or general fund to be used elsewhere throughout the town.
As which we can do with all capital projects. As soon as they're completed, the money goes back in.
Yeah,
to
we
the
don't
general
have
fund.
control of it.
Yep, it's not like it's locked up in anything else. It goes right back into the general fund when it's done.
Let's vote.
Any other questions? Or comments? I'm afraid to ask. All right, so,
We were on 161.
resolution 161, and we had a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Okay, that resolution carries.
Do you remember the first and second?
Adeline,
I think I-
Adeline was the first, Terry was the second. Resolution number 162, authorization for budget transfer and closing of the Uptown Canandaigua Infrastructure Capital Expenditures, H35.
Second.
We'll move by Terry, seconded by Dave. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That one carries. Resolution 163, authorization to create a capital project for Seneca Point Road Culvert H44 expenditures.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by Adeline. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That one carries. Resolution 164, acknowledgement and authorization of budget transfers by the town supervisor.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Adeline, seconded by Dave Sauter. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That one carries. Resolution number 165, approving entering into an intermunicipal contract with Ontario County for the Route 364 sidewalk project.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Adeline, seconded by Dave. Any discussion on this one?
I just want to note that this funding is coming from our Complete Streets capital project.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, that one carries. Resolution number 166, accepting proposal from Architectural Sheet Metal Specialties to replace 4 roofs at Ananda Park and authorizing town supervisor to execute documents.
So moved.
I'll give that one to Terry, moved by Terry, seconded by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That one carries. Resolution 167, approval of contract with O'Connell Electric for the 332 street light pole replacement project.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Terry. Any discussion on this one?
I just want the board to know, the contract was written with RB's help and your attorney has approved the language.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm
All
glad the
right.
bids came in lower than anticipated.
Yeah, thank you for your work on that.
There were 9 bids.
I just looked at the bottom line number. I didn't
That's
look
it.
at any of the language.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great number, so.
Which is fantastic. I mean, to get 9, it's good.
It's good, it's good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Oh,
Just a question, when do you think it will be completed?
They have a completion date of the end of December 31st. So
So for the bulk of the winter, should be well done
Yes.
up there.
yes.
That's good.
It's a good thing we're voting on that at the summer solstice.
so we will turn them on as part of the New Year's, as part of our New Year's festivities. Perfect.
There's fireworks there.
Yeah, that's later.
City people.
Well, the city will pay for these. Resolution number 168, setting a public hearing on a text code amendment to certain town code chapters that will clarify farm labor housing protections and seeker intent to declare lead agency.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Terry. Any discussion on this one on 168?
Hang on, point of order. Did we actually vote on 167?
Did we not vote on 167? I thought- All right, we were pretty, yeah, he asked the question after we voted, so we did vote, and I wrote it down,
Okay, good.
and you just
Sorry.
made me cross it out. Okay,
Well, there was a question. I want to make sure we,
okay.
um,
So on to 168. We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I don't think you got a first and a second on 168.
Yeah, we did.
You
Yeah,
did.
you did, okay.
Dave and Terry.
Sorry, never mind. It's a plus.
Any discussion on this one for the second time? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one carries. Resolution number 169, appointment of seasonal employees.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Adeline, seconded by Dave. Any discussion?
There's some great names on this
Yeah.
list. I know a
Yeah.
bunch of them. They're wonderful, wonderful human beings.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries. Resolution 170, appointment of code enforcement officer.
Second.
We'll give that one to Terry and to Dave. I would like to say that it's exciting to have, Sam taking this step in this role. He's very excited about it. Any further discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries, and not to say that he wants to run away from the clerk's office.
That's a big loss for
It
us.
is, it is for you guys, but it's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, it is.
Resolution 171, accepting the resignation of finance clerk 2 part-time.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Adeline. We'll give this to the gentleman to my left, seconded by Terry. Any discussion?
I almost want to vote against this because she was such a wonderful employee. I hope everybody saw the nice note that she wrote regarding her employment here and praising a lot of our employees here and what a great environment it is to grow in. So we will definitely miss Kate, but she's on to really great things.
You know, once she gets a law degree, if she settles in the area, maybe we'll have some competition.
I don't see any competition. She beats me on anything.
All out.
Head to the detail.
Wow. All right, let's move on. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, trying to save you from yourself. Resolution number 172, accepting resignation of consulting assessor. Moved by Terry, seconded by Dave. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Resolution number 173, appointment of community advisory panel members.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Adeline, seconded by Dave. Any discussion on this one?
I'm excited to have this many people interested and a lot of new faces there. One of them who's been hanging out here at our meetings pretty often, Mr. Bukowski.
It was nice to have a nice variety. It was very good, very encouraging.
And the resume notes were helpful in the agenda as well. So thanks for that, Sue.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one carries. Resolution 174, authorizing issuance of facility alcoholic beverage permit to Christina Patchett.
Can we block 174, 175, and 176?
Okay, so motion on the table to block 174 through 170.
Do it.
Okay, so resolution 174, 175, 176 for associated alcohol permits.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Dave, seconded by Adeline. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries. I forgot to ask for discussion on that one, but I don't assume there was any discussion. Resolution 177, granting a cable television franchise agreement held by Spectrum Northeast LLC in the town of Canandaigua. Moved by Terry,
Second.
seconded by Adeline. Any discussion on this one?
Well, a question about 15 years. Where did the 15 come from?
So this is an agreement that predates probably most of us.
Everybody.
All of us. And this is something that was on the to-do list prior that hadn't gotten done. That is their standard agreement. What this does is, the main thing this does, and we don't do it with any other providers, it allows them to operate business in the town of Canandaigua. And then they charge there's a $3 franchise fee on the cable bill. That franchise fee is used to improve infrastructure in many municipalities. Going back and searching the last several budgets, that money, which is about 90,000 a year, has been rolled back into the operating budget and not used to expand. I believe it's Charter Spectrum, before it was going all the way back to the beginning, when they first came here, this agreement allowed them to charge a franchise fee that was then returned to the municipalities to help with the cost. That's my understanding of it. It doesn't affect, it does nothing for any resident of the town of Canandaigua who uses a different provider, who doesn't have internet. It's
like a tax that's passed.
it's just that agreement that they have and that they asked to have as part of their as part of their licensing.
The concern that resident had.
Just
That was about
15.
So if
This
if
is
I
not-
may,
this is just-
this is exclusively cable. We only have, there is only one cable franchise, I believe, in the town of Canandaigua. The only cable provider you can have in Canandaigua is Spectrum right now. However, under New York State and federal communications law, now, if you grant this, now, any cable provider can come in and say, I want the exact same franchise agreement. And they can have, it. You're required.
We're not eliminating.
Exactly, that's what I want, the point I want to make, it's not exclusive.
Do we have to give them the same agreement?
Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of law about that it has to be, well, the money. I think you can work out other details. But you've got to do the same franchise fee for every provider who wants it. If you're reasonably certain that they can provide cable service on a comparable basis.
I would like to see that we do, though, address this in the budget, that the cable subscribers are paying that fee.
Mhm.
We should use that fee for some sort of upgrades to technology as opposed to.
Right, and I don't
bringing in a
know.
Federal fund.
Money's fungible. Yeah, they're always dollars on there.
I do know that other municipalities, I know that Farmington reached out for copies of our information because they're redoing their franchise fee as well, their franchise agreement with Spectrum as well.
I
But
think that's a dying business. I mean, at the end of the day, it's everyone's using.
well, and the other thing too is if you have Spectrum home internet, you don't pay into this. This is just if you get your
Cable.
channels through
Right.
Spectrum.
Right.
That's the only thing,
And I'm assuming that doesn't mean your Spectrum streaming.
right?
I don't know, I don't actually know that, but I'm assuming it's really just people of the cable box.
Right. And bring that in there. And it probably is, it's a relic that at one point was needed. And from the sounds of it, from my discussions with them, they're trying to tighten up their ship a little bit and follow these policies. They're probably getting hammered from those up above at the FCC and other places to get this done. Because they had been lax on those.
If they decide to exit the cable business, there must be something in there where they can see paying the 90 grand a year.
Well, that 90 grand a year, yeah, that's just based on if everybody in the town of Canandaigua said no, and you didn't have Spectrum TV, you get nothing.
Right. So they're
It's a
not,
pass-through.
it's a pass through.
It's a pass through. They don't
Like a
pay.
cable.
us.
No, I know,
Yeah.
it's a tax. It's what-
Right, it is.
Yeah,
It is.
but if they decide to exit the business.
We don't get it. It's gone. They don't have any repercussions to pay to make us full with that amount.
Use the 90 every year.
I know, I could use it. Yeah, we could use it.
Encourage your friends to keep cable. TV.
Yeah, you cannot sponsor. That was forced in my Chick-fil-A comment.
No, Terry said he wants the 90. I'm like, you talk to your
Okay,
friends about
all
it.
right. Any further discussion?
No, his friends.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That one carries. Resolution 178, speed limit study and TE 9 submittal for Weifels Road in the town of Canandaigua.
Second.
Moved by Terry,
Give it to
seconded by,
Dave.
I gave it to Adeline. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carries. Resolution 179, petition to rezone tax map 70.06.1-1-76-111 from form-based code Route 332 sub-area to R130 and to amend the local zoning map.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by Adeline. Any discussion on this one? I believe this is, we have the Campbells on who've been on Dr. Campbell through a long meeting waiting to hear about this, to rezoning of that parcel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one carries. Remember Dr. Campbell getting bruised and bloodied from one of our horses many years ago.
Skip to 182.
Resolution number 182, support and authorization for the town of Canandaigua 2024 New York State Consolidated Funding Application. Non-agricultural, non-point source planning grants.
So moved.
Moved by Adeline, second by Dave. Any discussion?
CFA is a really important funding source. I'm glad we're doing it.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That one carries. And resolution number 183, New York State DEC NPS Culvert Project Planning Study for Seeker Resolution and Type 2 action. Moved by Terry, seconded by Dave. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one carries. Okay, just let me jump ahead to get to the end.
Any other bills?
All right, Chris, would you read the bills, please?
Utility abstract dated June 14th, 2024, totaling $39,564.11. General fund, $27,158.48. Capital projects, $4,489.77. Highway fund, $1,825.05. Lighting districts, $1,278.91. Water districts, $4,811.90. Town board abstract dated June 24th, 2024, totaling $849,575.80. General fund, $248,955.72. Highway fund, $537,173.49. Capital projects, $41,836.49. Water districts, $21,610.10.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Adeline and Dave, any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, bills are paid. I do not have any other business
I have a
at
quick one.
this time. Go ahead.
I just wanted to highlight the fact I sent out an email to everybody about adding a bus route stop on Conifer Drive, Old Brookside Apartments. And the supervisor indicated me reaching out to RTS regarding that. I think it's really important. I've had a number of residents approach me saying that they really could use that in their development.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have one final privilege of the floor.
Damn it.
Is there anyone who would like to be heard? You want?
It's a long, what is it, the long termers?
Turned down.
Would you like to go on record with that?
Think we're wasting money?
Yeah, all right. So I don't see anybody.
I agree with you.
All right, that's not part of the privilege of the floor, though.
Sorry.
Before we adjourn, to keep us awake. Before we adjourn, I do have a motion to, I would like to motion, and I am requesting executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual pertaining to the town manager search.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we are now in executive session. So Terry motioned to exit executive session. Dave seconded it. It was all in favor 4-0. Council member Rudolph left the meeting. She has an early commitment tomorrow. So she could not stay till the very end. Motion to adjourn.
So, second.
Same thing. Motion by Terry and Dave, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned and the time is